This paladin is so despicable. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Chanting Poetry and Killing People, Part 3. In the empty hall, words that they could not understand echoed. Suddenly, a white light flashed, and the head of the magic swordsman rolled down. The headless body fell to the ground, and the remaining two people were frightened and turned pale. They were obviously saints and powerful, but now, they were like mice being played by an old cat. A deep sense of powerlessness surged into my heart. What is that he is chanting? Is it a spell? Why is the spell different every time? Do different spells have different effects? I don't know. At this moment, the two saints stood back to back, looking around vigilantly. But Wright did not appear suddenly, but walked over from the front with a sword. Explain. That is not a spell, but some selected poems from my hometown. This holy weapon of mine has a little quirk. It is only willing to show its power when it is in front of people. If it is not satisfied, it will work without effort. Wright explained patiently, while stepping on the pace of death, continuing to approach the two people. But you know, if we really fight, how can we have so much leisure and ease? Even I can't guarantee that I can say something nice and appropriate every time. Not to mention those situations, states and words, which are all hard to come by. But, I also need to use it occasionally. So at this time, what should a pragmatist like me do? Wright flicked the sword with his fingers and smiled kindly. The answer is to feed it some ready-made poems and wild words. Although it is not as good as a natural state, fortunately this guy is still willing to exert about 30% to 40% of his strength. If the poems and wild words are well chosen, and more in line with the actual situation, it can rise to about 60% to 70%. This is like instant noodles. It tastes good if you eat it occasionally. But if you eat it continuously, it will be a bit greasy. However, it should be enough to kill you. As if unable to withstand the pressure of Wright's approaching, the arcane master gave up the space magician with a whine, and turned to continue running inside. Seeing this, the space mage quickly folded his space, and continued to flee into the distance. Swing your arms. Adjust your breathing and pace. Very good. Keep it up. Wright held the hilt of the sword with his backhand, and aimed at the two people who were fleeing. I can draw a bow like a full moon, look northwest, and shoot the wolf in the sky. Wright suddenly threw out the sunlight, and in a roar, the half-body of the escaping arcane saint was completely blasted to pieces, and he died tragically on the spot. The space mage once again escaped with his own spell, but his magic circuit had already been overloaded due to the continuous use of space teleportation. At this moment, he spit out blood and fell not far from his companion's body, watching Wright walk towards him step by step. Why is this not enough? I still have a lot of bold poems. There is no other way. My hometown has too rich heritage. If you don't like it, I can change some for you. Like, my fate is in my own hands. I'm proud of the world at the top of the gods, and don't bully the poor young people. Still don't like it? Then explode the reality, shatter the spirit, and exile this world. I have a black flame dragon in my arms. Wright pulled out the sunlight and slowly came to the front of the space saint. There are so many styles. There must be one you like, right? Choose one. The space mage gritted his teeth and looked at Wright. You are the enemy of the truth. You will not end well. Hearing this, the smile on Wright's face slowly disappeared, and his eyes instantly became cold. What is your truth? Truth. Truth is naturally the real and irrefutable laws and principles in this world. Wright narrowed his eyes, his voice cold and murderous. So, as long as it is for the pursuit of truth, you can do anything. Those innocent people who died in your cruel experiments should thank you for giving them a chance to sacrifice themselves for the truth. Anyway, their boring lives and hard work are just to feed their hungry children, to give their elderly parents an extra cotton coat in the cold winter, and to buy at least a decent piece of jewelry for their wives who have worked hard all their lives. He should be disemboweled by you. He should be dismembered and then sewed up by you. He should drink the poison you carefully prepared, and then provide reliable data. Even if there are people waiting for them to go home in the bitter cold night. What the hell does it matter? Anyway, you are one step closer to the truth. Wright's roar echoed in the hall, but there was still no trace of regret on the face of the space mage except for resentment. Wright sighed. Sorry, I got excited. I just want to make my position clear. That is, you bunch of inhumane Tower of Truth bastards. I will wipe you all out. Not one. Stay. Boom. The sin light in Wright's hand burst out with a dazzling light, like a hungry tiger waiting for its master's order. Wright raised his hand and swung his sword. The space mage roared and stacked several space shields in front of him. But the next moment, these space shields were completely annihilated along with him. One side of the hole was directly blown away, leaving a deep shard pit on the ground. Wright carried the sin light on his shoulders and looked at the pit at his feet with disdain. Since you don't do human work, don't be a human in the next life. Just reincarnate as a chicken, duck, pig or sheep, you bastard. Wright spat into the deep pit and continued to walk towards the depths of the hole with the sin light. After all 5 saints died, he did not encounter any other enemies along the way. After all, if someone below the saint rank met light in this situation, they would not be able to withstand even a single encounter. Calling him would simply be sending him to his death. As for the saint rank, it is said that a lean camel is bigger than a horse, but even if the remnants of the Tower of Truth still have some foundation, they should not be able to produce more saint ranks for the time being. Light walked all the way to the depths of the hall and finally saw a man in a cloak standing there with his back to him. In front of him was a huge treasure chest tied with countless chains. Mr. Light, you are here. How is it? Are you satisfied with my welcome ceremony? Normally. But it's not bad for a warm-up. Light nailed Singang to the ground and looked him up and down. Why, your mouth is on your butt, so you turn your back to people when you speak. It's you in the Tower of Truth. When you do experiments, you don't even let your own people go. I'm actually quite curious, so I'm sorry to ask you a question. When you fart, do you accidentally get a side stitch and burp? The cloaked man slowly turned around, but it was obvious that the expression on his face was a little unnatural. Then next, I will be your opponent. I hope to make His Majesty the Saint of Sin have a good time. So this is just a simple trap? You lured me here just to be killed by me? Don't you have your own executioner in the Tower of Truth? Why do you always invite me? By the way, my appearance fee is very expensive. The cloaked man opened his hands, and the cloak on his body disappeared out of thin air, and a powerful power fluctuation emanated from his body. Whether there is a surprise or not, you will know soon. Wright raised his eyebrows. Legendary strongman. Great. Finally a hard dish. Chapter 77. Fighting the Legend. Please read. Wright swooped down in front of the opponent, raised his sin light and slashed down. Unexpectedly, this person drew out a magic sword, wrapped in flames, and came forward without fear. The two fought in a group, and fire and light collided wantonly in the hall. Wright lifted the enemy with a sword, and readjusted his posture. I didn't expect you to be a magic swordsman. Look at the way. Was the magic swordsman your disciple before? No, he is my senior. The legendary strongman took out a magic wand, as long as an arm from behind, and connected it to the hilt of the magic sword. He turned his hand with one hand, and a large amount of ice crystals condensed in the air, and swept towards Wright. Wright shattered the ice crystals with a backhand sword, and leaped down from the air. The magic sword in the legend's hand turned again, and took the powerful blow with the flaming sword. A magic swordsman with dual attributes of ice and fire, who has been promoted to the legendary realm. It turns out that your Tower of Truth is full of talents. I don't deserve it. Any talent will be eclipsed in front of Mr. Light. The legendary wizard was still calm despite the continuous attacks. He knew very well that Light was just testing him so far, and he didn't show his real ability. In fact, I'm very curious. With such outstanding talents and unparalleled achievements as Mr. Light, he should be one of us. Why should he stand on the side of those fools? We have abilities that others don't have, or even can't understand, so we live a life that they can't imagine. Isn't this justified? Light's eyes were full of contempt. He threw the opponent away again with a sword, and pointed the tip of the sword at him. Do you think you are a good person? Can you please put away your stinking sense of superiority? To be honest, it's disgusting to me. What's there to be proud of in the power gained by abandoning humanity? Just like making money, good merchants who abide by the law do not make as much money as you bunch of profiteers who cross the bottom line. But please don't act like you have a talent for business, okay? You have no talent. You have no achievements. You are just more shameless, more mean, and more shameless. You also make dirty money by going against conscience. To be honest, every time I see you, besides disgust, the biggest emotion I feel is that I find it funny. Instead of being ashamed, you are proud of it. Ha, TSK. Zui Guang agreed with him and responded to his master with a buzzing sound. The legendary wizard sighed. Since we can't come to an agreement, then we can only ask His Highness the Holy Sin to die here. Wright raised his eyebrows. I thought you were shameless, but who knew you didn't even have a brain? What do you mean? Do you have a tumor on your neck? The legendary strongman did not respond, but began to rotate his weapon. Ice and fire rotated in a circle, and the legendary strongman also opened his own domain. Sacred weapon. Humph, I underestimated you. Wright clenched the sin light and instantly entered the supersensory state. Saint level strongmen are all geniuses among 10,000. And among them, less than 1% can condense their own sacred weapons. The gap between saint level strongmen who have their own sacred weapons and other saint level strongmen is a chasm. Some people even proposed a theory that only saint level strongmen who have their own sacred weapons are true saint level. The others are just pseudo saint level. Because, if strongmen above the saint level can resonate with their own domains with their sacred weapons, they can greatly enhance the power of their domains. This has a crushing effect on a single domain. Here it comes. In his supersensory state, Wright had already realized that the opponent's attack was coming. However, the enemy still stood there, without any movement, and didn't even lift a finger. Crack. Wright's arm suddenly sank. He looked down, and found that there was a large area of frostbite on his forearm, and there were even nice chips coming out of the wound. The holy light flashed, and the injury was immediately healed. But the next moment, his left ankle was strangely burned. Although the holy healing can still recover from the injury, how did this strange attack come about? Wright suddenly had several guesses in his mind, but he couldn't be sure which one it was. The legendary powerhouse would certainly not miss such a good opportunity. He rushed over directly, and the holy weapon in his hand was wrapped in flame fighting spirit and frost magic, and he entangled with Wright. Wright had to deal with two completely different attacks from the opponent, and he had to be on guard against the strange damage brought by the legendary powerhouse's domain. For a moment, he was actually suppressed by the opponent. But soon, he stood firm. Huh. The legendary master was stunned. You actually defended it? Although I haven't figured out the principle yet, any attack cannot be separated from the guidance of mental power. Even within your domain is no exception. Wright slashed out with two swords casually, and although he didn't hit anything, the legendary wizard was shocked, and his face turned pale instantly. You can actually hurt the mental power directly? Please, you Tower of Truth are my hunting targets, and your organization is 99% of the mage system. Wright wiped the sin light great sword and showed his white teeth. Why, only you Tower of Truth are allowed to study the Holy Light Church, but I'm not allowed to study the techniques against you? For this reason, I went to the bitter cold land in the north and found the barbarian tribe known as the Magician Killer. Their war cry can damage the enemy's mental power, and the stronger the mental power, the more serious the injury will be. Don't you think it's a coincidence that they are still in the witch barbarian age? And this skill is a countermeasure developed by those powerful wizards when the magic age replaced the witchcraft age. The wheel of history rolls forward, and although the wizards failed to stop the witchcraft age from becoming history, but fortunately, this technology has been retained and fell into my hands. Do you think this is witchcraft buried by magic, taking revenge on you? Damn it. The legendary strongman was a little panicked, and he knew that what Wright said was right. If the mental power can be attacked, the magician will be in a very dangerous situation. HMPH. Ha. Wright suddenly shouted twice, and a strange shockwave swept the scene. The legendary warrior quickly set up a mental barrier to resist. But the barrier was shattered by the first sound, and the second sound still hit his mental power firmly. the legendary warrior suddenly felt as if he was hit on the back of his head by a club, and there were stars in front of his eyes. His mental force field, which was enough to cover the entire field, instantly became weak. Looking at Wright, who was approaching step by step, the legendary warrior waved the holy weapon frantically. Don't come over. Frost and fire began to run around, forming one protective net after another. However, all this fell into Wright's eyes, but it became the biggest flaw. When people panic, they are likely to expose their weaknesses. Your frost and fire don't seem to consume magic power, right? After the mental power is disordered, there is no spare energy to disguise, right? Wright smashed the ice wall in front of him with a sword, and looked at the other party with a smile. So, your domain ability is the manipulation of heat, right? You are indeed a genius, to be able to glimpse such a profound lore from the magic of ice and fire. If you really want to study this in depth, it will be quite troublesome. Unfortunately, you have gone astray. The legendary wizard had barely recovered at this moment. Seeing Wright close at hand, his eyes suddenly flashed with a fierce light, and he suddenly turned the holy weapon in his hand. Reverse the polls. Chapter 78. Hey, I won't tell you. When the things that people rely on, are proud of, and even arrogant about are destroyed, no matter who it is, they will fall into panic. After Wright guessed the truth about his domain, the legendary wizard was obviously a little anxious. He knew very well that in a game of this level, once his trump card was revealed by the opponent, it would only be a matter of time before he lost. Obviously, Wright would not give him this time. The flames and ice in front of him kept changing, and the heat was frequently given and taken away, forming a powerful vortex when it flowed. This force was very powerful, and could easily destroy everything it touched. But this move had a fatal flaw, which was that it was too slow. Wright turned into a stream of light, and disappeared for 2 or 3 breaths, and the 2-pole reversal offensive was considered to have passed through the place where he was just now. There was no way. The important part of this move was the rush of heat and the constant change of extreme cold and heat. No matter how fast the wheel turned, it could not move horizontally. The power is good, the creativity is okay, but if you can't hit it, isn't it meaningless? Wright stood behind the legendary strongman, raised the sin light, and slashed at his neck. The legendary warrior had no way to avoid it, and suddenly reached out to grab the sin light with his bare hands. However, when his hand touched the light, the holy light weakened visibly. But in the end, the legendary warrior's palm was still cut off by Wright. However, his body was able to escape. Wright kicked his palm away and shrugged helplessly. This sin is not pleasant. Why do I have to suffer it again? It makes me act like a sadist. Haha, ha 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 ha. Unexpectedly, the legendary warrior grabbed his broken wrist and laughed wildly. You dodged it. You dodged it, right? It turns out that there are problems that you cannot solve. There are also things that you can't do. After I extracted the heat from your holy light, the power was greatly reduced. I restrain you. I restrain you. Ha 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 ha. Why did those people who asked you to come here before lie to you like this? Looking at the legendary strong man who was laughing wildly, Wright's voice was cold. Then you came here happily, just because you also think you can restrain me? And that stupid princess is the same. You took great pains to give her so many insurances and pieced together so many conditions. Isn't it just to achieve the goal of restraining me? I'm personally very happy for your attention. But I'm sorry to tell you that these are all useless efforts. You restrain me? You didn't even force out my domain. Damn beast. What did you restrain? The legendary strongman's laughter stopped abruptly. He held his holy weapon and stared at Wright with his eyes fixed. You are just bluffing. Humph. The next blow. I will kill you. He began to spin his holy weapon frantically with one hand, and the whole field began to change constantly between ice and fire, and then turned into a vortex of heat. This was still his special move just now, the polar reversal. But this time the scope of action was expanded to the whole field. Wright felt the speed of the surrounding heat flow getting faster and faster. In this case, you can't escape. Then let's die together. If I kill you, my name will definitely be engraved on the wall of truth. It will be admired by future generations. Oh, speaking of which, what is your name? Humph. Listen carefully. I'm not interested in knowing. Wright held the sin light with both hands and took a deep breath. God said, "Let there be light." I said, "It's okay." But the sin light made a joyful vibration, and the heat energy flowing in the surrounding field. In an instant, all turned into light and gathered on the sin light sword. The legendary strong man was stunned on the spot. He couldn't understand what was happening. "Your holy weapon. Your holy weapon. No. What's wrong with your holy weapon? You don't understand it, do you?" "Actually, I don't understand it either. But there's a good saying." Wright raised the sin light greatsword high above his head, revealing a healthy and friendly smile. "You don't need to understand the affairs of the paladin so clearly." The sword fell, and the holy light roared out like a tide, instantly drowning everything. The legendary strongman was like a rock in the torrent, desperately using his own abilities to offset the damage of the holy light. But every time he removed a piece of heat energy, this heat energy would turn into new holy light, and continue to rush towards him. Poor legendary strongman, his domain and his ability, instead became his death cage. Finally, when he was unable to maintain it, the torrent of holy light passed through his body. The body with thousands of holes lay on the ground, and the vitality was slowly fading away. This, such a great power, is unreasonable. This is unreasonable. In one word, this is unreasonable. The legendary warrior looked at Wright unwillingly, but when his eyes fell on the sin light greatsword, he was full of doubts. What is it, exactly? It must not just be a holy weapon. Is it a blessing weapon, or a sacrificial weapon, or a combination of all three? Or, it is a brand new thing that has never existed before. Ahem. Then, what is the price? What is the price? The legendary warrior struggled to crawl in front of Wright, grabbed his trouser legs, and looked at him pleadingly. "Tell me, what is the price, and what is the principle? Tell me, are you not familiar with it? It is something you gave up, or something you gave up." I gave up. Although he got the answer, the legendary warrior still couldn't figure out what it was. He felt that his vitality was slipping away, and he felt that the answer was right in front of him, but he couldn't find it. "Damn it. Tell me the answer." Wright kicked his hand away and looked down at him coldly. "In your life, has anyone ever begged you like this? If you agree to their last prayers before they die, I can tell you the answer. Come on, swear in the name of the gate of truth." The legendary strongman gnashed his teeth and looked at Wright with nothing but resentment in his eyes. Wright placed the sin light in front of him and said coldly, "There is an old saying in my hometown, which is that you will not live if you do evil. There is also an old saying in my hometown, which is that good and evil will be rewarded in the end, and heaven will have a good cycle. If you don't believe it, look up and see who the heaven will spare. There is probably no heaven here. But don't be afraid, because I'm here to warm you all 4 seasons. You like to pursue the truth, right? Then die with the doubts of seeking, but not getting it." After that, he raised the sin light and pierced through the opponent's back directly, nailing him to the ground. Looking at the enemy with a face full of unwillingness, the light in his eyes faded, and Wright also breathed a sigh of relief. It must be said that this guy is quite tricky. If he surpasses the legendary realm, it may not be so easy to kill him at that time. "Let me see how much useful information you have in your head." Wright half squatted down and stretched out his hand to press on the legendary master's head. The other party had just died, so he had to hurry up to search his memory. Otherwise, as a paladin, he would really have to use necromancy. Hiss. It must be said that this legendary master is worthy of being the core of the remnant of the Truth Party. Wright obtained a lot of extremely valuable and useful information from his memory. What made him happiest was that this person knew a lot of information about the witch. However, just as he was about to explore further, a dangerous breath suddenly surged into his heart. Then, a large amount of black mud gushed out of the body of the legendary wizard and covered Wright. Chapter 79 Familiar Black Mud. Updated 3. Black Mud. Familiar black mud. When he killed the remnant of truth, Massilian, in the territory of the Laren's family, this kind of black mud emerged from his body. It was from that time that Wright learned about the witch's plan. Then came the news that Jonah was attacked. The moment Wright saw the black mud gushing out, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. The witch's plan. The great sage of truth in the Tower of Truth. Emily, the elemental witch. Scarlet, the blood witch's plot. Jonah's attack. The strange movements of the remnants of truth. Vanessa's sudden return. All the events seemed to be connected by something at once, but it seemed that there was something missing. However, the witch's information was right in front of him, and Wright was unwilling to give up. He increased the speed of reading, and finally escaped from the black mud in the last moment in the state of flowing light. But unfortunately, a small amount of black mud was still stained on his arm. A piercing burning sensation came from his skin. Wright gathered the light blade without hesitation, cut off this part of the flesh, and then used the holy healing technique to heal it back to normal. What on earth is this? Looking at the twisted and squirming black mud on the ground, Wright instinctively felt disgusted. He wanted to cut off a little for a search, but it seemed to have sensed his thoughts, and all the black mud dried up in an instant, and then turned into ashes. Such a strange scene. Wright even doubted whether the other party was alive. Do you have to pay a price to gain knowledge? Wright nodded slightly, but he did get what he wanted, the secrets about the witch. This greatly helped him to solve the witch's curse. The best strategy. Finally, there is hope of success. For this, it is worth taking a little risk. However, in addition to the relevant knowledge about the witch, Wright also read a lot of internal information about the remnants of the truth in this last moment. One of them surprised him greatly. Let Vanessa assassinate the Pope. Who the hell came up with this idea? Wright's face sank, and he turned around, and was about to walk out of the hall. From the beginning, he had always thought that Vanessa was coming for him. But it was obvious that according to the memory information of the legendary strongman, the price of the transaction between the Tower of Truth and him was the life of the Pope. They hoped to destroy the dignity of the Holy Light Church by decapitation at the time of the Holy Advent ceremony. These remnants of the truth seemed to have put themselves in second place from the beginning, because they seemed to know that it would be too difficult to deal with them. Indeed, it would be easier to assassinate the Pope, and at the same time, it would be a greater blow to the Holy Light Church. It would be a bit difficult for Vanessa to defeat him with her configuration. But except for himself, no one in the entire Holy Light Church could beat her. I actually overestimated these guys. It seems that after the destruction of the Tower of Truth, these people have really fallen, and have learned to settle for second best. Just as Wright was about to get up and rush back to the holy city, the sound of the chain breaking suddenly came from behind him. Snap, bang, crackle. Wright looked back and saw that the sound was made by the iron box that the legendary wizard had been looking at just now. This thing is ordinary, but it exudes a terrifying aura at this moment. Bang. The top cover of the box was blown off by the huge force, and then a large number of tumors full of blood vessels emerged from the box and began to grow rapidly. Wright couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Extinction level containment. Growing flesh and blood. Good guys, you are really willing to spend money. In just 2 or 3 seconds, the entire hole was swallowed by flesh and blood. This huge piece of meat is still growing wildly, and the lake water has become its nutrients. Growing flesh and blood feeds on matter, but it likes energy more. The energy released by his several battles with 5 saints and a legend just now has all become nutrients for this containment. It seems that the opponent has prepared to kill everyone by himself from the beginning. The most troublesome thing is that the downstream of this lake is the moat of the holy city. The river even passes through the center of the holy city. If the growing flesh and blood continues to grow, then in less than 3 minutes, the entire holy city will become its nutrients. Even if it can be stopped, it will cost a lot. I don't know how many believers' lives will become its blood food. After all, there is no barrier outside the holy city to resist it, not to mention the holy work town, that is just getting better. This group of inhumane people, Wright understood the other party's intention. From the 5 holy ranks to the legendary strongman, and then to the extinction level containment, the other party just wanted to delay his steps, to buy time for Vanessa. Even if he couldn't delay his steps, he had to consume himself as much as possible, and weaken himself to increase Vanessa's winning rate. They also calculated that for the sake of the witch's secret, he would definitely come. It seems that the remnants of truth are not all good for nothings. Great, this is the fun. Wright didn't say much, slowly raised his sin light, and flicked it lightly with his fingers. The sin light seemed to realize something, and it vibrated, as if it was upset. This time I promise not to leave for 3 years. I will be back before noon tomorrow. After that, Wright erected the sin light in front of him and began to gather the power of holy light. One after another, the magic arrays of divine spells were opened and slowly fell into the lake, blocking the continued growth of flesh and blood. But in the blink of an eye, the entire lake had been devoured by it, and it was about to flow down the river. By then, the disaster would no longer be avoided. At the critical moment, Wright suddenly smashed the sin light sword in his hand towards the center of the lake. Secret. Draw a prison on the ground. The sin light turned into a ray of light, directly smashing the middle part of the growing flesh and blood, leaving a charred gap. As it fell, the magic arrays around it suddenly connected into one, like a huge cage, sealing the growing flesh and blood in place. Although the twisted and ugly flesh tumor tentacles were attacking frantically, they still couldn't shake the array at all. Seeing this, Wright immediately turned around and rushed towards the direction of the holy city without looking back. A stream of light cut through the sky and returned to the sky above the holy city at an unreasonable speed. Wright ignored the order prohibiting flying over the Pope's palace and went straight to the core of the palace and fell directly from the sky. However, when he landed, he found that there was no attack here. Wright was very confused. Logically speaking, the time when he was sent away should be the best opportunity to attack. That was the precious time that the remnants of the truth paid a huge price to gain. The guard standing at the door gave Wright the answer. Teacher, why are you here? Looking at the fully armed Master Constant, Wright was extremely surprised. Are you here to discuss the distribution of the snack street with the Pope? I sensed that you left the holy city, so I rushed here. Master Constant replied in a muffled voice, although I'm an old man, I can still buy you some time. Teacher. Besides, if I save the life of this old guy inside, he will be embarrassed to snatch the share of the snack street from me. Teacher. Constant sighed and patted Wright on the shoulder. Go, she is waiting for you. Wright raised his eyebrows. He felt a strong fighting spirit coming from the direction of the entrance of the Pope's palace. Yes, teacher. Chapter 80. I'm here to kill you. After bidding farewell to his teacher Constant, Wright slowly walked to the inner side of the gate of the Pope's palace. He slowly pushed open the gate, and the fully armed Vanessa and the eagerly watching Galado were standing at the bottom of the stairs. It was unknown who gave the order, but the area around the Pope's palace had been completely cleared, and even the red church next to it was empty. Wright looked down at the other party and smiled. Vanessa, I'm here to kill you. You are the one who should disappear. Wright walked down the stairs and asked with a smile, according to the agreement between you and the remnants of the truth, you should assassinate the Pope. I'm waiting for you. Vanessa put one hand on the hilt of the long sword at her waist. Those idiots don't understand the crux of the problem. I never planned to assassinate the Pope, let alone subvert the church. From beginning to end, the only person I want to get rid of is you. Because I expelled you 4 years ago. Wright came to Vanessa while speaking. You are quite vindictive. No. For many reasons. The main reason is that 3 years ago, on the last day of the Holy Visitation, you ignored the goddess's obstruction and killed the envoys of 3 countries and hundreds of people involved. They deserve to die. Lady Goddess, they have all been pardoned. Yes, it is the goddess' job to pardon them, and my job is to send them to see the goddess. The customer is very satisfied and in a stable mood. Although he didn't give a 5-star rating, he hasn't received any complaint letters so far. Wright said as he walked past Vanessa and continued to walk down. Come down and fight on the road. The steps in front of the Pope's palace are all made of top-grade marble. If they are broken, the cost of repair will make the teacher cry and faint. Vanessa was unmoved. The church power cannot restrain you. The royal power cannot restrain you. The divine power cannot restrain you. There is almost nothing in this world that can restrain you. 5 years ago, you suddenly appeared in the holy city. In less than half a year, your strength was already on par with that of the teacher. In a year, the entire church and even the church bowed to you. It was also that year that I was expelled by you. But at that time, I still believed that the only difference between you and me was our different views on the world, and there was no irreconcilable problem. Until the bloody day of the holy day. Vanessa drew out the long sword in her hand, pointed at Wright who had already walked to the road, with fear written all over her face. Right, you are right. Whether it is the royal professor or the ecclesiastical professor, they are just different political systems. Because above the royal power and the ecclesiastical power, there is the absolute authority of theocracy. But what about you? You who cannot even be restrained by theocracy. You are an alien in this world. You are actually the same threat to the world as the Tower of Truth. The only difference is that the Tower of Truth is a group of stubborn and wanton lunatics. And you, at present, can still communicate and are still on the side of the holy light. But right, what if one day you change? What if you become crazier than those lunatics in the Tower of Truth? Right, you are a hidden danger to the future of this world. Wright looked disgusted. You are a feudal and superstitious double evil party. You say this to a good young man of the new era. Is this why you want to kill me? I say, do you all like to use such unwarranted clown methods in your imperial family? Uncontrollable things must be destroyed regardless of right or wrong. You are worthy of being the Lancer Princess of the First Empire. I haven't even read out your charges, and you come here to sentence me. Wright's eyes gradually turned cold. Who do you think you are? The guardian of the world? You are too self-conscious, aren't you? You talk so high-soundingly, but you are still working with a group of inhuman terrorists, using the power of heretics to fight heretics. This is also a kind of balance, right? Strict with others, and lenient with yourself. No one else can do that. Wright waved his hands in disgust, and then ruthlessly exposed Vanessa's hypocritical mask. Okay, you like chatting, right? I'm telling you. You are just the highest privilege class, and you are used to enjoying superiority. You are born with extremely noble bloodlines, and your relationships and power are intertwined. Not to mention the church, even the goddess sometimes has to give you some face. In the existing game of power, you are like a fish in water, and you know very well that your descendants will enjoy the same privileges. But suddenly, on that day, a person who can destroy you and even your entire class privilege system appeared. You panicked and scared all of a sudden. It turns out that we will be sanctioned and judged like those lowly mudlegs. It turns out that our privileges can no longer serve as our umbrella. The doctor is not subject to punishment, and suddenly it doesn't work. I have become your heart disease, or thorn in your eyes and a thorn in your flesh, and a sword of judgment hanging over your head. That's why you were elected by your class to kill me. Even if you just defeat me, you can let your privilege game continue. What world, peace, faith, justice? You are just trying to protect the privileges of your own circle. Don't put up a memorial here. Wright spread his hands and invited Vanessa on the steps. Now, can you come and die? Vanessa gritted her teeth, and the knuckles of her hands holding the hilt of the sword turned white. She wanted to say something, but she opened her mouth, but couldn't utter any sound. The Holy Dragon of Light Galado on the side thought more simply. Seeing that Vanessa was at a disadvantage, she attacked without hesitation. The humanoid dragon jumped down from the steps and rushed straight to Wright's face. There are too many flaws. Wright was shining with holy light, and his physical fitness was greatly enhanced under the effect of holy healing. He dodged the opponent's attack with a sideways move, and then raised his knee and hit the dragon girl's stomach, and then took a step forward and knocked her out directly. Dragon girl Galado fell to the ground like a cannonball, but soon turned over and stood up, brushing off the dust on her body, as if nothing had happened. Yes, although it is spliced together, the physical strength is still remarkable. While speaking, the princess had already mobilized the holy fighting spirit, holding a long sword, and killing towards Wright's neck. But Wright lowered his body, got in front of the princess, and punched the enemy in the face. Then he hit him with a rising dragon punch, and sent him floating in the air. Just as Wright was about to chase in the air, the dragon lady spread her wings and flew over, blocking Wright's attack. The two sides quickly distanced themselves after the first contact. Although Wright was fighting 1 against 2, he had the upper hand in both literary and physical fights. HMPH, so. Wright hooked his finger. Come on, you have been preparing for so long. Show us all your tricks. Galado roared continuously. His body expanded rapidly, and in the blink of an eye he turned into a giant dragon of light. Vanessa also jumped on the dragon's back, and both the man and the dragon were wrapped in a fighting spirit that they had never seen before. Even the knight's sword in Vanessa's hand was transformed into a lance under the guise of fighting spirit. War dragon fighting spirit? Wright's aura surged, and in the blink of an eye he entered an overclocked state. You still want to save a trick? Dear readers, it will be available at midnight on January 1st, and 5 chapters will be updated at once after midnight. 2 more chapters will be added in the evening. Today's 3 chapters will be updated as usual, and there will be a thank you note after the update. Chapter 81, The Princess and the Dragon's Rondo. Dragon Knights can be said to be the strongest type of soldiers in the world. The dragon itself is already at the top of the food chain, with an absolutely powerful body and terrible dragon language magic. Add a human knight whose strength is almost the same as that of the dragon, and whose battle ideas are clearer. The combination of the two can often burst out unimaginable power. Indeed, when Vanessa burst out with the fighting dragon's fighting spirit, her strength was greatly improved. Boom. Wright jumped high, and the condensed light spear in his hand fiercely stabbed into the dragon's body. But as recorded in the classics, the holy light could not cause any harm to it. The holy dragon of light turned its head and spit a holy light dragon breath at Wright, but unfortunately, the holy light could not hurt Wright at all. But the destructive and burning breath of the dragon's breath itself is still very lethal. Wright stretched out his hand to block with a light shield, and he flashed with a stream of light to avoid the lance swept by the princess. The holy light fighting spirit and the fighting dragon fighting spirit on her body were intertwined, and there was no conflict at all. So that's how it is. By uniting the mind and spirit, the dragon has become a place where 2 kinds of fighting spirits can rotate. Dragon Knight, that's interesting. Wright harnessed the holy fighting spirit and slapped the dragon's jaw with both palms. Even though the holy dragon of light had thick skin and flesh, it was still staggered by this blow. Taking advantage of the opponent's unstable body, Wright flashed and came to the dragon's back, clenching his fists and spinning at Vanessa. Polar reversal. The surging light turned into a vortex and went straight to Vanessa's face. Vanessa also realized the horror of this attack and quickly blocked her arms in front of her, using the hunting light armor to take the blow. But the holy light was immediately swallowed by the hunting light battle armor, but the twisted power still made Vanessa groan. But the light feedback healed the opponent's injuries in an instant. At the same time, Galado also stabilized his center of gravity, and the huge dragon wing slapped back, knocking Wright off his dragon's back. At the same time, the thick dragon tail descended from the sky and smashed the place where Wright landed. But Wright's speed was too fast, and he had already returned to a safe place. Offensive spells don't work, and offensive self-created moves don't work either. It seems that this hunting light armor is indeed worthy of its name, and it is worthy of being created by the dwarf grandmaster and lava dragon thousands of years ago. The holy light dragon in the sky let out a loud dragon roar, and Vanessa also raised the war spear in her hand. The 2 fighting spirits surged and flowed between the person and the dragon, and the momentum rose all the way. I see. Wright nodded slightly. You have already broken through to the legendary realm. No wonder you feel qualified to challenge me. Indeed, before me, you are indeed the most qualified among the apprentice saints and saints of this class. It can even be said that you are the best among the young generation in the world. It's a pity that you grew up crooked. Shut up. You are a heretic who fools authority, tramples on laws, blasphemes God. The war gun in Vanessa's hand made a series of buzzing sounds. You are still with the evil gods and the devils. You take human life lightly. You kill and punish without authorization. You have a long history of bad deeds. What qualifications do you have to speak nonsense here? Charge. With a roar, the Dragon Knight fell from the sky and rushed towards Wright in an unmatched and unstoppable manner. Wright was gushing with white gold holy light fighting spirit, and countless holy lights gathered in his body. In the overclocked state, the energy flow speed in his body was once again increased to a higher level. Bang! Wright did not dodge or evade, but punched out, colliding with the attacking Dragon Knight. The powerful shock wave almost flattened the surrounding buildings, and the ground shook more violently than the last time he fought Master Constant. However, when the light faded, Wright actually stopped the opponent's attack. Really? So I have so many sins to blame. Then, please call the victims. Wright's expression was extremely calm. Even if you call yourself the savior of the world, the prosecutor of holy light, and are ready to prosecute my crimes, you should at least call the victims, right? Let me guess, it won't be the greedy and cruel nobles, the arrogant and debauched royal family, the army that kills innocent people for credit, or the merchants who support evil wizards, right? Then, Princess Vanessa, who claims to be righteous, do you want me to call the victims of your actions as well? I think there is not enough room here, right? Whether it's the alchemist in the holy work town or the extinction level containment object, growing flesh and blood, in the lake upstream of the moat. If it weren't for me, I'm afraid that tens of thousands of people would have died innocently, because of your willful behavior. Who did they offend? Vanessa, in the beautiful world you imagine without me, is there a place for these innocent people? Is there? Wright's fighting spirit shone brightly, and then he combined his waist and horse, clenched his other hand into a fist, and punched with a horse stance. The powerful force directly hit the dragon's jaw, and it flew away with the dragon. The dragon wailed, and fell heavily to the ground. For a while, it was unable to get up. Although the dragon was immune to light damage, it was still not immune to the flesh-to-flesh attack. What is this? This? Wright looked at the brighter fighting spirit in his hand and grinned. This is the latest version of Shenghu Daoki, Shingaio Daoki. Its activity is higher than Shenghu Daoki, and its power is naturally stronger. How about it? The moment you saw it, did you subconsciously feel fear, and felt that something bad was going to happen? Do you know why? Because you subconsciously thought that, if this more powerful Shingaio Daoki became popular among the Paladin Order, the order would be stronger. Correspondingly, the influence of the church will become greater. In this way, the rights of you royal nobles will be squeezed again. Wright walked slowly towards the man in the dragon, and a spear of light gathered in his hand. This is the truth of why you hate me so much. And the reason why I want to kill you is relatively simple, because you did something damned. Not only you, but anyone who is involved in this matter with you. I will not let anyone go. I will find them one by one, kill those who should be killed, punish those who should be punished. Let them get what they deserve. For the sake of the teacher, I will call you senior sister for the last time. Today, let me, a fellow student, make up for the most important lesson in life and the one you lack the most, before I clean up the door. People should be responsible for their own actions. He smashed the light spear with all his strength, and Galado quickly raised his head, and spurted out the hot holy light dragon breath to offset the blow. Then she frantically flapped her two pairs of wings and rose to the air, then turned her head to look at Vanessa. Use that trick. Vanessa seemed a little hesitant, but that trick. If you don't use that trick, you can't beat him at all. Vanessa rode on the dragon's back and hesitated at first. But seeing Wright approaching step by step, she finally made up her mind. She raised the fighting spirit of the dragon to the extreme, and Galado also began to chant the ancient dragon language magic. Countless rays of light enveloped a man and a dragon, and they were constantly shrinking. When the ball of light landed, a 3-meter tall half-dragon girl wearing hunting light armor and holding a dragon rider spear walked out of the ball of light. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Light is the Bond. At this time, Vanessa's limbs had completely transformed into dragons, with a thick tail spinning behind her, and a sharp dragon horn on her forehead, making her look like a half-human, half-beast. The powerful and terrifying pressure was far superior to that of ordinary legendary masters. If we had to compare, she should be much stronger than the legendary magic swordsman at the bottom of the lake. Not to mention, she is now integrated with the Holy Dragon of Light, and is wearing the light hunting armor. I'm afraid her resistance to light attribute attacks has been superimposed to the extreme. Wright also quickly calmed his mind, and prepared for the battle. The next moment, the half-dragon girl flashed in front of Wright and kicked him in the head with her leg. Wright quickly raised his arm to block, but the powerful force still kicked him away. In midair, Wright had just stabilized his body when the half-dragon girl flapped her wings and chased after him, swinging the spear in her hand violently, intending to cut Wright in half. Wright raised his knee to block, but was heavily smashed into the ground. Half-dragon Vanessa was ready to pursue the victory, but as soon as she landed on the ground, a dazzling white light burst out from Wright's body. Vanessa was dazzled, but didn't mean to look away. A closer look revealed that her eyes were protected by translucent eyelids. But Wright still caught her in the flash, and he leaped up and kicked the half-dragon in the face. However, half-dragon Vanessa didn't move at all and reached out to grab Wright's leg and slammed him to the ground. Even with the protection of the Holy Glory fighting key, Wright couldn't help but groan. At this moment, he had already made up his mind. It seemed that the opponent's strength had leaped again after the fusion of man and dragon. Whether it was strength, speed, defense, or endurance, they had all been greatly improved, and they were already immune to light attribute attacks in all directions. Whether it was light element magic holy light spell, or holy glory fighting key, they were just ordinary light sources to it. Not only did it not have any killing effect, but it would even be plundered by the opponent and become their power. Indeed, it was difficult to deal with. Whoosh! Vanessa threw Wright out, knocking down an old tree on the roadside, and then smashed heavily into the red church. Lying in the broken bricks and tiles, Wright looked at the empty church hall and couldn't help laughing. This time, the teacher will have to spend money again. Archbishop Delman will probably blackmail him. Bang! The half-dragon Vanessa had already landed at the gap. Her huge body of more than 3 meters tall, plus the 4 wings behind her, blocked the light tightly. Yes, you deserve praise for being able to do this. If you really go to assassinate the Pope, my old teacher may not be your opponent. Right, you will pay the price for your arrogance today. Vanessa gathered the dragon fighting spirit on the lance. If you had stopped me earlier, or let the person you chose become the other vice president earlier, maybe you still have a chance. Chance. Ha 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 ha. Wright stood up from the ruins and looked at the other party with sarcasm on his face. You don't think you have won, do you? Do you want me to find a bottle of champagne to open for you? Even those people behind you don't think you can win. They just want to see how many cards you can force me to reveal. But with such strength, you are worthy of seeing one of my cards. I'm just hesitating. Which one should I show you? Boom. The half-dragon Vanessa punched down, but saw 2 strong lights flash. Then, her fist was blocked by 2 big hands. Vanessa looked carefully and saw that Wright had summoned 2 powerful light elemental lords. This 4-meter tall semi-humanoid elemental creature was extremely powerful. Being able to become a lord meant that it was a dominant existence in the sub-elemental space. Vanessa struggled to shake off the 2 elemental lords, but Wright had already taken the opportunity to dodge onto the road, with the 3rd elemental lord standing behind him. Do you want to use the summoned elemental lords as helpers? Even if they are elemental creatures, they can't cause any substantial damage to us. After saying that, Vanessa rushed towards Wright. But the 2 elemental lords rushed over and blocked her attack in an instant. Because they were elemental bodies and light element, Vanessa was not afraid of their attack, but it was difficult for her to effectively hurt them. After a few rounds, she was entangled in the same place. Wright raised his eyebrows and shouted loudly, do you know vampires? What? Vanessa was stunned for a moment, not understanding why the other party suddenly talked about something so irrelevant as vampires. Wright stood there and talked calmly. Half a year after you left, I submitted an analysis report to the Holy Light Church. It clearly stated that the ancestral vampires are actually blood elemental creatures. The path of vampire advancement is a process of gradual transformation from material life forms to elemental life forms. This also shows that material life forms and elemental life forms can be transformed into each other. For this, I had a big fight with the White Cathedral, and I founded my 3rd sect, the Urutalaman sect. Wright moved his arms, and a light element ring appeared on his left hand. For so many years, I have been promoting the research of the Urutalaman sect. But in the end, I found that the reason why vampires can change into each other is because of the special nature of blood element, which other elements do not have. Unfortunately, the research failed. The hope of turning from a human into light was shattered. But at the same time as the research failed, I unexpectedly gained something new. That is, when a material life form reaches a certain state and resonates with an elemental life form, it can merge with each other for a short time. Material creatures cannot become elemental creatures, but they can merge with elemental creatures. But because the time is too short and the stability is too poor, it is not very practical. As he said, the speed of the light element in Wright's body slowed down. He was already in an overclocked state, and now he took the initiative to reduce the frequency, just to achieve synchronization with the elemental lord behind him. Vanessa realized that the situation was not good, and rushed over here frantically. But the two light elemental lords entangled her tightly, slowing her down again and again. Wright twisted his hand, and the light ring suddenly expanded, covering the light elemental lord behind him. It was not until I returned to the holy city some time ago that I came into contact with the new religion by chance and developed the light ring system. The addition of the ring makes synchronization fusion simpler and more stable. Then, what you will see next is the fourth realm of supersensory overload and overclocking. Super body element fusion. The light ring spun wildly, and the light element lord turned into countless light particles, and the ring enveloped Wright's body. After a burst of strong light, Wright, who was more than 3 meters tall and half human and half elemental, appeared in front of Vanessa. The constantly running light ring became the link between matter and energy, and was embedded in Wright's chest. Ha. Vanessa looked at Wright in the elemental superbody state with disdain. So what? You are still light attribute. You still can't hurt me. However, the next moment, Wright appeared in front of her, and punched her in the abdomen. The powerful impact made the half-dragon Vanessa retreat several steps, but her body curled up like a shrimp. The spasming muscles made her unable to move, and a large amount of acid water surged upward. Wright looked at the other party coldly. The light attribute can't hurt you, right? I just want to use the light attribute today. Kill you. I just want you and the people behind you to understand that your calculations are a joke. So many people guessed Naruto ramen. Chapter 83 Remarks on the release. 2024. At the beginning of the new year, this book is also on the shelves. Nearly 20 words, more than 80 chapters. After working hard for more than a month, it is finally on the shelves. I have a lot of feelings for a while, but more of gratitude. Thank you for the enthusiastic support of the readers. Thank you for the introduction of my friends, and thank you for the editor for giving me this precious opportunity. Thank you. Thank you. I'm flattered by this love. Huang W will work hard to update in return for everyone's support and love. About the shelves. After the shelves are put on the shelves in the early morning, I will update 5 chapters, and then 2 more chapters will be updated during the daily update time in the afternoon. It is said that there will be a delay in turning on the shelves, and I have no experience. It may be a few minutes late at that time. Please forgive me. Update after the shelves are put on the shelves. The editor and friends all suggested that I should update more in the first month. I will also do my best to update more. Of course, under the premise of ensuring quality, everyone can rest assured. Welcome everyone to come to the Book Friends group, to fish in the water. Welcome, welcome. Finally, please subscribe. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Please recommend the ticket. Regarding the subscription, please help. It's the end of the month. Does anyone have any monthly tickets left? Wrap them in breadcrumbs and fry them. Huang Dao is crying with greed. Anyway, they will expire if left alone, so just vote for me. Chapter 84 Count Your Sins. First Order. Bang. Wright and Vanessa fought again, and the powerful collision of their limbs caused waves that blasted the surroundings into ruins. Whether it was Vanessa in the half-dragon state, or Wright in the super body state, they both had extremely terrifying combat power. But if we really compare them, Wright's side is obviously better. The Elemental Lord may not be as powerful as the Holy Dragon of Light, but it is obvious that Wright's super body is much more sophisticated in structure than Vanessa's fusion. Not to mention, Galado is not actually a real Holy Dragon of Light, but a pieced together chimera. Although her individual strength is comparable to that of the Holy Dragon of Light, and may even be a little stronger. But she is a fake after all. Fake. Can't be real. Vanessa used the ancient Dragon Knight fusion method, and Galado cooperated with it, but after all, it was not a real Dragon and Knight. Too slow, too slow. Wright grabbed Vanessa's attacking arm, suddenly pulled it towards himself, and then kneed her. Then he grabbed her and smashed her hard against the ruins beside him. Didn't you say that light attribute attacks are ineffective against you? Wright walked towards Vanessa step by step. Aren't you supposed to be invincible? Why are you so embarrassed? Ah. Vanessa roared in anger and spewed out holy dragon breath from her mouth. Wright did not dodge and took the attack with his chest. A large amount of holy light energy was absorbed by the light ring. Although the burning and incineration of the dragon breath caused some damage, it was soon healed by the holy light. The holy light can't hurt you, and of course it can't hurt me either. Now we are on the same starting line. Wright rushed forward with a quick step and hit Vanessa with a combination of punches, beating her so hard that she couldn't find the north. Whether in swordsmanship or close combat, the two people have a huge gap. Although Vanessa was born in the royal family, she learned the best fighting skills of the royal family, and her swordsmanship was learned from the legendary paladin Master Constant. But Wright's understanding of fighting and his knowledge of tactics and routines were naturally 1 or 2 levels higher than his opponent. In terms of fighting techniques, Master Constant was not his opponent, let alone Vanessa. Once she lost her physical advantage and ability restraint, Vanessa could only be beaten. After being beaten by Wright for several rounds, her body was even more likely to be unfused. Looking at Vanessa lying on the ground gasping for breath, Wright's eyes were full of coldness. Why, is this all you have? After all, I played a trump card with you. You have to behave decently. Otherwise, if it gets out, I will be laughed at. Damn it. Damn it. Vanessa was extremely angry at the moment. She stared at Wright and her teeth creaked. Seeing her unwilling look, Wright laughed instead. You are quite interesting. You are talking to yourself and want to punish me. You can't win the argument or fight. Now you have no other choice but to sulk. Are you always so self-centered? Wright's arm slowly transformed into a sharp knife in the super body state. It's about time to send you off. We are from the same school, so don't say I don't take care of you. I have some friendship with the god of death. Remember to tell us our names when you get to the underworld. Maybe I can give you a discount on the boat fare to the river Styx. However, Vanessa, who had been panting, gradually calmed down. A raging fire began to burn on her body. This doesn't seem like the ability of the dragon race. Seeing herself on fire, Vanessa was a little panicked. Galado, what are you doing? Stop it. Phoenix blood is your life. You are committing suicide. Sister, you are the only one who treats me the best in my short life. No matter what, I will fight with you to the end. Vanessa wanted to stop burning Phoenix blood, but unfortunately, she didn't have the initiative. In desperation, she could only grit her teeth and rush towards Wright, hoping to get rid of him as soon as possible to stop all this. With the blessing of Phoenix fire, Vanessa was full of momentum and once reversed the decline. The flame of the legendary beast. Even Wright did not dare to touch it too much. But this improvement is limited after all, and it can only help her compete with Wright at most. It is wishful thinking to want to defeat the opponent. But she was already anxious at this moment, and her attack was even more chaotic. Wright seized her mistakes one after another, and beat her upside down. Seeing the opponent's almost crazy look, Wright forced him back with one kick, and then he also retreated to a distance, peeling off the burning part of his foot. The Phoenix fire is indeed a bit tricky, but you still can't beat me. How about it? The real world is more cruel than the world you imagined, right? How do you feel when you find that the world can't be as perfect as you imagined, and things can't develop as you wish? Vanessa attacked like a madman. Stop talking nonsense. Die quickly. Only when you die, Galado can be saved. Bang. Wright kicked Vanessa's knee and punched her away with a swing. She was dead in the first place. You dug her out, pieced together and transformed her wantonly, letting her come into the world in this deformed form, just to satisfy your own desires and goals. You blasphemed the living and the dead. You blasphemed life and death. You created her on your own, but now you look worried and sad about her. I can't understand whether you are just hypocritical or really shameless to a certain extent. Vanessa already knew that she was definitely not Wright's opponent. She smiled gloomily, still looking unconvinced. You said it so nicely, but aren't you also using your abilities to do whatever you want? In the final analysis, you are just stronger. So, you can make these bold statements here as a winner. But in essence, you are no different. Wright raised his finger and shook it slowly. Is the idea of winners and losers so deeply rooted Then let me ask you, what is the meaning of being powerful? Huh? What do you think the meaning of being powerful is? Vanessa tried to stand up straight. It's being invincible. It's being the ruler of the world. It's controlling everything. Wrong. Wright reached out and took off the light ring on his chest and lifted the super body state. The light elemental lord restored his body and stood quietly on Wright's side. The meaning of being powerful is to support, not to dominate. And this is the biggest difference between me and you, and those crazy people in the Tower of Truth. After saying that, he gently grabbed with his other hand, and the red fire ring condensed into shape. Then, a fire elemental lord came and landed on the other side of Wright. Okay, it's time to send you on your way. Wright's overclocking mode soon reached a consensus with the cooperation of the Turings. Then he held the two rings in both hands and collided them together at his waist. The two magic rings instantly granulated the two elemental lords and then merged with light. The super form reappeared, but this time it was a perfect fusion of fire and light. More powerful, more wonderful. At a glance, the light was burning. This is the 5th level, super. It only takes one move to take your life. Light stretched out his hand and pointed at the other party. Come. Count your sins. Then die. Chapter 85, A Tribute to Life. Wright's powerful pressure made Vanessa feel what it meant to be completely desperate. It turned out that a struggle from beginning to end was meaningless. From the beginning, victory was impossible. She might really be a gun in someone else's hand, a chess piece on the chessboard. With grief and resentment, Vanessa raised her power to the highest level and launched a death charge towards Wright. Seeing this, Wright's double rings of fire on his waist spun wildly, and the flames on his body became more and more fierce. With the power of his legs, Wright also rushed towards Vanessa. His speed became faster and faster, and finally turned into a meteor, hitting Vanessa with a bang. Boom. In the explosion that destroyed the world, Wright stood intact. Behind him, there was a trail of charred marks, some of which were even still burning. Vanessa flew high into the sky and finally fell heavily to the ground. At this moment, her life force had been completely destroyed, and her fusion with Galado was also dissolved. The man in the dragon lay on the ground miserably, breathing but not exhaling. Wright untied the double magic rings on his waist, and the super form was also lifted. With a single wave of his hand, he sent all 4 elemental lords back to their private servers. Looking at the dying man and dragon, Wright looked at the gate of the Pope's palace. He didn't know whether Master Constant would come to see his beloved disciple for the last time. Save. Please, save Galada. Vanessa lay on the ground. Her voice was too weak to be heard. Save her. She is still young. She knows nothing. Wright glanced at the Holy Dragon of Light, or Chimera, and shook his head. I don't know what method you used, but I'm sorry I can't do anything. If she is the real Holy Dragon of Light, for the sake of the church, maybe I will try it. While speaking, Wright came to Galada's side. At this moment, the flames of Phoenix were still burning on her body, but it was nearing the end. But this is a machine you assembled by yourselves, with all kinds of strange parts and a tattered body. It's a miracle that it can still work. Now, even her maker may be powerless to save her. Wright glanced at Vanessa, who was on her deathbed. Actually, it's better this way. Living in pieces, and without knowing what to do, may not be a good choice. Vanessa was extremely regretful. She liked this world very much. It was me who harmed her. Wright looked at the chimera that was gradually falling apart and said faintly, "You see, it's so difficult to make a person happy." Vanessa gradually understood what Wright meant. She was silent for a long time and looked at Galado, who was close at hand, and spoke again. "Will we meet in the underworld? I don't know. If I'm not mistaken, Galado is like the Flask Man, a product of alchemy, necromancy and the blood of Phoenix. It is a forbidden life form. I haven't studied whether the life forms created unnaturally have souls, and whether they will go to the underworld. Perhaps they will dissipate and cease to exist." Vanessa stopped talking. She lay there quietly waiting for her end to come. Wright stood beside her and looked at the gate of the Pope's palace. With constant strength, he could naturally feel the passing of Vanessa's life. Since he chose not to come to see her for the last time, let this evil disciple witness the last moment of Vanessa's life for him. However, at the last moment, Vanessa suddenly shook, and a powerful holy light power emerged from her body. Wright frowned. As expected, it's a good thing I didn't leave early. Afra will only cause me trouble. Whether it is the apprentice saint or the son of the saint, there is a blessing of life from the goddess in their bodies, as well as the corresponding resurrection spell. Jonah was able to come back to life after being attacked because of this insurance. But this insurance is not omnipotent. For Vanessa, whose vitality has been completely destroyed, the magic spell is powerless. Even if it works, it will only make her survive for a while longer and prolong her pain. Or, let me give you a quick death. Wright raised the light spear in his hand and was about to kill Vanessa completely, but found that the holy light on Vanessa was rushing towards Galado in the distance. Oh. Wright stopped the light spear in his hand. Is this your last choice? The light on Vanessa's body became stronger and stronger, but her body and soul were rapidly consumed. Wright saw at a glance that this was the most powerful healing spell of the clergy, and it was also a forbidden spell, the praise of life. This is a means of saving the target at the cost of sacrificing one's own soul. Vanessa cast the blessing spell left by the goddess, plus the praise of her own life, on Galado. The bright holy light enveloped the body of Chimera Galado, igniting the phoenix fire that was about to go out on her body. The raging flames burned Galado's huge body to ashes, leaving only a watermelon-sized dragon egg in the ashes. The subtle sound of a heartbeat came from it, and the dragon egg still exuded a strong breath of life. All this showed that this was a new life, and no longer an old chemical creation. Vanessa's body gradually became ethereal. She looked at Wright and suddenly laughed. You're right, it turns out that it's so difficult to make a person happy. Before she finished speaking, Vanessa's figure dissipated and completely disappeared from the spot. The moment a life wave disappeared, a figure fell from the sky and landed beside Wright. Master Constant looked at the place where Vanessa dissipated and sighed. I also have a big responsibility. As a teacher, I failed to teach her how to be a good person. You have so many disciples, but only this one has gone astray. I don't think your problem is big. Wright reached out and picked up the dragon egg on the ground, holding it in front of his eyes to look at it. Teacher. Should we cut the weeds at the root? This. Wright spun the dragon egg. When I was in elementary school, there was an old diesel generator in the school. Every time the town had a power outage, this old machine would start when we thought we were going to go home from school. Although the power is not high, it can provide the most basic lighting. I hate it. But I heard that it was later given to the only hospital in the town by the principal, and it saved the lives of many patients during power outages. Unexpected things. Master Constant frowned slightly, his eyes fixed on the dragon egg. I never understand what's going on in your hometown. Keep it. After Wright finished speaking, he threw the dragon egg to Master Constant. After all, this thing can serve as a short-term backup hidden energy source in the event that the goddess of holy light is offline. Maybe one day, it will come in handy. Or, it's not bad to use it to annoy Dragon Island. Then what are you doing for me? Didn't you say I didn't educate your beloved disciple well? Now I'll give you another chance to teach this egg well. Vanessa owes the church so much punishment. Let this thing slowly pay it back. Wright looked at the place where Vanessa disappeared, frowning. This was the first and only time he witnessed the whole process of the activation of the goddess blessing spell in the saint's body. To be honest, it was very different from what he imagined. If the same situation was applied to Jonah, he always felt that something was wrong. Just when he was puzzled, he suddenly sensed a familiar breath. Adros, why is he here? Chapter 86, The Blood Witch's Warning. Wright, who had just fought a great battle, had no time to rest. He jumped to the end of the street and found Adros, who was waiting for him. Boss, what's going on? Why did you come here by yourself? And so close to the Pope's palace? Adros looked unhappy. Boss, the situation is urgent. I must come to see you in person. We just captured 2 high-ranking members of the Blood Witch camp. The other party asked to talk to you in detail. Talk to me in detail? These people are usually better at hiding than rats. How come 2 of them suddenly popped out? Wright slapped his forehead. He was first led out of the city by the remnants of the Tower of Truth, and then fought a life and death battle with Vanessa in front of the Pope's palace. For other unstable factors, this is simply a godsend opportunity to act But these guys didn't take this opportunity to sabotage, but actually came to Adros to seek a dialogue with him. Could it be that there is really something important? Let's go. I'll go with you. Boss, don't you need to take a rest? Not really, let's go. Wright looked back and found that his teacher had returned to the Pope's palace. He probably took the dragon egg to discuss with the Pope how to deal with the aftermath. He followed Adros around and soon came to a civilian residential area. Although they were called civilians, they were much better off living here than those people in the holy work town. Adros, you've worked hard these days. Boss, you're too kind. We're in the dark, and we can see your hard work more clearly. Compared to you, our work is not that hard. Wright patted him on the shoulder. Don't be modest, I know you've done a good job. With you holding back the dark race, I have the energy to concentrate on dealing with several other security risks. As Adros walked, he suddenly spoke again. Boss, how are you going to deal with the next mission? Mission? The most threatening one has been killed, and the rest. Wright suddenly realized something. You're talking about the alien mission. Yes. Mission refers to the group of envoys sent by various holy vassal states. Although the alien mission is also called a mission, the focus is on the word alien. Like the elves, dwarves, mermaids, orcs. Although I don't know why, the barbarians in the bitter cold north are also classified as alien missions. And this group of people is not just a trouble. They are not human, and they don't believe in the goddess of holy light. The elves believe in the goddess of life, the dwarves believe in the god of iron and casting, the mermaids believe in the god of the sea, and the orcs' beliefs are even more chaotic, with all kinds of beast gods that have never been heard of. The barbarians are more direct. They don't believe in gods. What they worship are the 3 barbarian ancestral souls located on the top of the ancestral mountain. Although the Holy Light Church invites them every holy day. But to be honest, no one in the church wants them to come. But for some etiquette and decency issues, the Holy Light Goddess still forced the church to invite these guys and give them VIP treatment. When the last ceremony was held 3 years ago, Wright quarreled with the white-clothed people because of this matter and finally sprayed the goddess with dog blood. In previous years, when there was nothing to do, these aliens were already worrying enough. This year, the Holy Light Church is in turmoil, and they will definitely be very interested in watching the joke. Maybe they will secretly add fuel to the flames. Wright saw Adros's worries, because in previous years, he, the social star, was responsible for this part of the work. Now that he has gone underground, he is a little worried about others handling it. Wright patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, I will personally take charge of this aspect of the work. I guarantee that everything will be handled clearly." Adros nodded heavily upon hearing this, and instantly realized that it was no use to worry about it. "Boss, here." Adros led Wright into the back door of a tavern, and then followed the hidden stairs to the basement of the tavern. Why do you all like taverns so much? Taverns are very lively, with people coming and going. Exchanging information here can provide good cover. In addition, warehouses and cellars are needed to store goods and drinks. It is more reasonable to do some things, and will not arouse suspicion. Wright nodded slightly. "How did the 2 Blood Witches men find you?" "We have subdued many of the original Blood Witches men, but their leaders seem to have the ability to sense the location of their subordinates. Not long after, we were found by them. But due to the deterrence of the Black Gold Sword, they dare not act rashly. They can only avoid contact with us as much as possible to prevent more subordinates from defecting. I don't know what happened today, but their 2 leaders suddenly came to find us. Boss, we are here." Wright came to the underground wine cellar and saw 2 vampires trapped by iron chains at a glance. When the other numbered prisoners saw Wright, they also bowed and saluted. Wright waved his hand and brought Adros to the 2 vampires. "You better have something to do, or I'll let you know how much I want to kill Scarlet now." "Sir, please calm down," one of the vampires said quickly. "We came here today to explain this matter. The one who attacked Saintly Lord was indeed a capable general under our Miss Scarlet. But his attack on the Pope's palace was definitely not ordered by our Miss Scarlet. Is this a new tongue twister?" Another vampire also explained quickly. "Sir, Holy Sin, the one who did all this. It was the Truth Remnants. Evidence. No, but, except for Miss Scarlet, only the Truth Remnants have the ability to control a vampire who has accepted Miss Scarlet's witch blood. Wright fell silent after hearing this, thought for a while, and asked again. Why didn't you say it earlier? Why are you risking being killed now to tell me this? Because Miss said that you may have mastered the means to unlock the witch's seal. So now, we must stop you. Wright raised his eyebrows. He did get some inspiration from the legendary wizard. If we study it and experiment on Emily, maybe we can really remove the seal. But Scarlett probably doesn't know how much she has learned, but simply considers the worst result. So what? The vampire licked his lips. You can't remove the seal of Her Highness the Holy. Otherwise, it will be in the will of the Tower of Truth. The Church of Holy Light will be doomed. Do you think I will believe it? Which? Another vampire quickly added. Witches are anti-enemy weapons developed by the Tower of Truth. Miss Scarlett is specially used to deal with the dark race. So after she completed the witch feast, she was able to control the entire dark race so quickly. The performance of the witch before maturity is all disguise. Her Highness the Holy is the witch among the 7 witches who is specifically used to target the Church of Holy Light. Once she wakes up after the seal is lifted, her abilities will be released, and the Church of Holy Light will become a lamb to be slaughtered. Chapter 87 The 6th Level. Wright didn't believe everything the 2 vampires said. After all, the 2 sides were not allies, and they didn't even have common interests. If you dig deeper, they were old enemies. Anyone would doubt it if they said this at this time. But Wright remembered the black mud that gushed out of the body of the legendary wizard after he died in battle, and the black mud that gushed out of Emily's teacher Massillion's body when he died. If the layout of the Tower of Truth had started at that time, many things, many people's positions, and motivations for behavior, I'm afraid we really need to reconsider them. Untie them too. Boss. With me and you here, what's there to worry about? Adros nodded, and the black gold sword in his hand suddenly came out of its sheath, cutting off the chains on the 2 vampires. After the 2 landed, they bowed and thanked him. It seems that Scarlett does not want the remnants of the Tower of Truth to succeed. No one hates the Tower of Truth more than our young lady. One of the vampires said dimly. You may not believe it, but among the dark tribes, the priority of killing the remnants of the Tower of Truth is higher than that of the clergy of the Church of Holy Light. Light nodded. Why send so many dark creatures to the holy city? To spy on the news, and, when necessary, to hunt down members of the Tower of Truth. Another vampire smiled flatteringly. Our young lady said that we didn't know at first that Lord Saint Sin would come back to take over the management of the holy city. If we knew you would come, we wouldn't have come. Light sneered. This statement is false. With Scarlett's brain, it is impossible for her not to analyze this step. I'll skip the hypocritical flattery. I like it, but now is not the time. Any other information? The 2 vampires looked at each other and shook their heads at the same time. Wright waved his hand. Okay, you can leave. But only this time. If I meet you next time, I will still deal with you impartially. Also, tell your Miss Scarlett, don't get in my way, otherwise. The murderous intent on Wright's body spread out with a bang, and then disappeared without a warning. The 2 vampires were so scared that they trembled all over. After bowing and saluting despite the discomfort, they fled from the cellar. Boss. Prisoner number 95,287 was a werewolf, and he always disliked vampires. Why don't they withdraw all the dark race members from the holy city? Wouldn't it be easier for us? Wright laughed and looked at Adros. What do you think? It's meaningless. Even if they agree, we can't be sure whether they have really withdrawn. There is no point in existing if we can't verify whether the other party has fulfilled their promise. Very good, not bad. Wright looked around. You keep working hard. Adros, I have a lot of important things to do, so I won't stay here. You have made great contributions to the 2 vampires, and I remember them in my heart. Boss, it doesn't matter whether it's a credit or not. It's my honor to be the sword of the darkness of the Holy Light Church. It's my mission. Wright patted Adros on the shoulder. His growth is gratifying. After repeatedly telling him to be more careful, Wright left the tavern in the civilian area and walked towards the direction of the Pope's palace. Vanessa is dead, but there are still many troubles to follow. Wright estimated that the top leaders would have to meet together to set the tone for this matter. The most important point is whether this matter should be announced before the Holy Advent ceremony or after the ceremony. As he walked, he suddenly felt that the road in front of him looked familiar. He looked up and saw that it was his own manor in front of him. Just in time, Wright took 2 steps at a time and arrived at the gate of the manor in a blink of an eye. Lilith. Lilith. Huh. Wright. Why are you back so soon? Lilith opened the door and came to greet him with Flounder and Emily. Aren't you going to? Everything has been taken care of, but there is one thing I have to ask you for a favor. Me. Lilith was a little confused. What is it? I forgot my sword in the lake upstream of the moat. Could you please make a trip and get it back for me? By the way, there is also a troublesome guy there. You can solve it while you are at it. Lilith was unhappy. It doesn't sound like a good job. There is also a troublesome guy. It's a very troublesome guy to others, but it's a piece of cake for you. Wright rubbed his hands and looked at Lilith with a smile. How does that saying come from? Restraint is more important than anything else. Special attack can kill gods. Lilith pouted. It's not impossible to help you, but there is a problem with your Sunlight Greatsword. What if it doesn't go with me? Come closer to my ear. Lilith tiptoed and put her little head closer. Wright said something in her ear, and her brows immediately frowned. What does this mean? Don't worry about it. As long as you say this, it will definitely come back with you. Remember, you must express your feelings. Full of emotions. Wright said, and took out a light attributed magic crystal, engraved a magic circle in it, and then handed it to Lilith. Then, I'll leave the matter to you. Oh, okay. Then you will take care of the 2 of them. Lilith pouted and turned to walk towards the east main gate. By the way, after this, you have to treat me to barbecue. Okay. Emily looked at Lilith's receding back and asked curiously, what did you say to her? Wright rolled his eyes and hooked his finger at her. You want to know? Come here, I'll tell you. Emily turned her head away without thinking, and Wright came forward and said softly, none of your business? Hey, you. How can you have the leisure to care about these things every day? Did you succeed in the overclocking form I asked you to train? Almost. Wright rolled his eyes. Your expression is more distorted than when I was cramming for homework on the last day of summer vacation. It's almost there, but it's still early. Look, before Lilith left, she specifically entrusted you 2 to me. It shows that you are still too weak to deal with the current enemies. There are 2 more realms after overclocking. When will you be able to finish learning like this? Emily felt terrible. 2 more. I still have 2 more. As a full system mage, you should be above me, and there is 1 more. Wright looked at Emily with a sneer. Come on, this may be the only place where you have a chance to surpass me. Don't waste the unique conditions. After that, he looked at Flounder, who was silent on the side. The power of the Ring of Law is also very strong. If you comprehend it well, your future achievements will not be inferior to this lazy bug. Yes, Master. Wright reached out and closed the manor's magic circle, then waved at the 2 women. Let's go. I'll take you to the Pope's palace to see the world. Don't look so sad. I'll let you go when Lilith comes back. Chapter 88 The Howling Black Goat. When Wright led the 2 girls to the Pope's palace, Lilith had already left the east main gate. After leaving the holy city, Lilith immediately let herself go, turned directly into a cloud of dust, and flew upstream along the river. Before she reached the disappeared lake, she saw the huge holy light array from afar, and the flesh and blood that was constantly twisting and growing in the array. Bastard Wright. Bad Wright. You actually let me do this kind of chores. When I go back, I will never let go of your hair. Lilith stomped her feet in anger in the air, but in the end she had no choice but to continue flying towards the magic array that was a prison. When she arrived at the edge of the magic array, she took out the light attribute magic crystal stone that Wright gave her and crushed it suddenly. The spell immediately enveloped Lilith, and she went directly into the sealed barrier of the prison, but did not destroy the original magic array. It was like a small soap bubble melting into another large soap bubble. As soon as Lilith entered the magic circle, the flesh and blood that grew suddenly became excited. It twisted and rolled towards her, ready to swallow her up. But the next moment, the flesh and blood seemed to smell some danger and suddenly froze in midair. Then, like a frightened young wife, it quickly retreated and finally curled up in a corner of the magic circle. Want to run away now? Can you run away? Lilith slowly landed on the bottom of the waterless lake. When her bare feet touched the ground, countless substances as black as ink and asphalt as thick as asphalt surged out of thin air. They surged and agitated, rushing towards the fresh flesh and blood. When these dark substances moved, it seemed that the wailing of goats could be heard. The strange pupils that appeared from time to time, and the twisted long horns and black hair of unknown creatures were even more bizarre. The flesh and blood that grew from the extinction level containment that could devour matter and energy could only flee madly in the barrier. But the place is so small, and how could it move faster than these dark substances? In the blink of an eye, the bright red flesh and blood were devoured by the dark twisted matter, bitten, chewed, and assimilated. It took about half a minute, and there was no trace of flesh and blood growing in the barrier. Lilith nodded with satisfaction, and the dark matter around her immediately rolled back to Lilith's feet like a receding tide, and finally emerged into her body. Lilith spread out her hands, and a ball of walnut-sized flesh and blood curled up together, trembling and not daring to move. This thing, right, should be useful. After saying that, she stuffed this extinction level containment into her pocket, just like ordinary candy. After dealing with the troublesome guy, Lilith's eyes fell on the Synlight greatsword in the center of the barrier. Ah, it's so troublesome. I don't want to do this kind of thing. Lilith's eyes rolled, thinking about sneaking back by herself and saying that the Synlight greatsword listened to her words and was unmoved. But when she saw the holy light array that covered the sky, her face suddenly changed. That bastard. He only gave me the crystal I used when I came in. Lilith stamped her feet in anger, secretly cursing herself for being so stupid. She was fooled by such a simple trick. Now, if she doesn't pull out the Synlight greatsword, she can't get out of the array. At that time, she can only wait for Wright to come and save her. Think about that scene. That guy will definitely laugh at her to death. A whole year. Lilith shuddered and walked to the side of the Synlight greatsword with gritted teeth. Let me think. The sound and emotion are very moving. Lilith took a deep breath, stood beside the Synlight greatsword, and looked up at the high sky. Today's wind is a bit noisy. But, unexpectedly, the Synlight greatsword responded to Lilith. The latter was very surprised, and quickly reached out to pull down the Synlight greatsword. The barrier that was drawn around the prison also shattered. In the sky full of fluorescent light, Lilith held the powerful Synlight greatsword, and was extremely happy. But soon, she realized that something was wrong. Asshole. Why am I so happy? Such a weird thing. But, if you think about it carefully, it is quite meaningful. Lilith was stunned for a moment, and then shook her head frantically, just hoping to get rid of the strange idea just now. Too terrible. How come people like to fool others, and swords also have this function? Lilith was secretly surprised. As long as she said something inexplicably cool, the Synlight greatsword would respond with powerful power. This kind of positive feedback. It's really a bit addictive. If a guy with a weak mind uses the Synlight greatsword a few times, he might be controlled by his mind and become a guy who can only say weird things. This sword has the ability to transform the user into the appearance he likes. Perhaps only a beguiler like Wright can control it. Too weird. Both the person and the sword. Lilith didn't dare to stay any longer and immediately carried the Synlight greatsword and rushed towards the holy city. She didn't care about being exposed now and rushed into the Pope's palace with the sword and kicked open the door of the meeting hall. In the hall, the Pope, the two archbishops, the legendary paladin Constant, and a group of high-ranking members of the Holy Church stared blankly at the succubus carrying a greatsword at the door. Both sides of the brain were a little confused. This. Fortunately, Wright quickly stood up, took the Synlight greatsword from Lilith, and turned it into the back of his hand. Sorry, I asked Lilith to help me get the sword. Although I don't know why, since it was Wright's business, everything suddenly made sense. Everyone suddenly had collective amnesia, as if nothing had happened just now. The Pope knocked on the table and said, "Now, let's start today's topic. I think Vanessa's matter can be put aside for now. What's really important now is how to deal with this dragon egg of the Holy Dragon of Light. Oh, and this." After Lilith followed Wright back to her seat, she quickly took out the growing flesh and blood from her pocket and threw it on the table of the council. Everyone frowned. What is this? Wright took a look and said, "Nothing, just an ordinary extinction level containment object, the growing flesh and blood." With a crash, everyone at the table of the council retreated 3 or 4 meters and pressed against the wall of the council. "Can you not throw this kind of stuff directly on the table next time?" Facing the Pope's angry questioning, Wright shrugged his shoulders. "Don't worry, it's harmless." Wright held it in his hand and played with it like plasticine. "Let's discuss the dragon egg. I'll keep this little thing. Maybe I can use it someday. As for the whereabouts of the dragon egg, I suggest that my teacher, Master Constant, be responsible for it. Who is in favor and who is against? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, All Out War begins, updated. Rather than discussing how to deal with this dragon egg, Cardinal Delman stroked his chin. "Can we really call it a dragon egg? I believe everyone has seen the information I just sent to you. Galado was originally a dragon-shaped chimera. After his death, he completed Nirvana because of Phoenix's flame and the holy light forbidden spell. To be honest, I think it is difficult to define it as a dragon egg." The black-robed Archbishop also nodded slightly. "Yes, what exactly this egg is has a decisive influence on how to deal with it. Your Holiness, what do you think?" The Pope pondered for a moment. "This egg involves the First Empire, Dragon Island, the remnants of truth, and our Holy Light Church. Although it is related to all 4 parties, I think we should have a similar position with Dragon Island. How about this, Delman? You draft a letter in the name of the Red Cathedral of the Holy Light Church. Write down the ins and outs of this egg clearly, and then sincerely invite Dragon Island to study together how to deal with this egg. Be more polite, but don't be too humble. When necessary, let the other party know that the Holy See is not easy to mess with, and the initiative of this matter is still in our hands. Now, I just want to seek opinions. Do you understand?" Cardinal Delman nodded repeatedly. "Don't worry. I will. Write that we promise not to use Saint Light first." The Pope was relieved. "Well, concise and to the point." Light immediately raised his eyebrows. Hey, what do you mean by this? Am I a weapon of mass destruction? Do you think I look like laundry detergent? Deterrence. After all, the dragons are very arrogant." The Pope knocked on the table. "Then before the final decision is made, this egg will be kept by Master Constant." After a circle, the dragon egg finally returned to the hands of Master Constant. Wright spread his hands and whispered to the 3 girls around him, "Look, this is called a process. Although the result is the same, the person primarily responsible is gone because of the circle. If something goes wrong then, no one will have to take the blame. Ahem. Next topic." The Pope waved his hand, and the black-robed cardinal carried a large package and sat on the table, making a tinkling sound. "What is this? Picking up scraps? Are you retiring early, Archbishop Cardivan? This is the wreckage of the Light Hunter armor." The black-robed Archbishop sighed. "Your last blow directly blew this thing up, and it was scattered so evenly. For such an important thing, I had to personally lead the high-ranking officials of the Holy Temple to conduct a carpet search in your battle area. At present, it can be guaranteed that 96% of the wreckage is here. The rest, it is really impossible to find." Wright picked up one of the pieces and took a look. According to the translation of the Bard Idris, the material of this thing is an extremely rare metal. Since it is broken, take it and resmelt it. I see that Taylor does not have the holy weapon yet. Why not let him try it? Teacher, what do you think? Upon hearing this, the Pope slammed the table and decided, for such a valuable thing, the remaining 4% must be found. Wait a minute. The current actual leader of the White Clothes, Archbishop Mason, hurriedly stood up. "The Light-Hunting armor is the work of a former dwarven forging master. Every 3 years, during the Holy Advent ceremony, representatives of the dwarves will go to the temple to watch and worship, to express their respect and grief for the master. The main delegation will be here soon. If those dwarves knew that the master's work was destroyed, they would definitely make trouble." Wright grinned. "That's easy. The Pope immediately looked at him. "You want to do it again, right? Teacher, don't think of me as a reckless man who only knows how to fight and cut people when something happens, okay? I'm a civilized person. I read the spring and autumn annals." Wright smiled and threw the fragments in his hand back into the package. "We can use this thing to frame others. The Lythanting armor is immune to all light attribute attacks. Now it's blown up like this. Even if someone says that it was caused by our Holy Light Church, what do you think? Do you believe it? This thing has been in the temple for thousands of years. If the church wanted to destroy it, wouldn't it have been destroyed long ago? Even if we really want to destroy, we have no ability." Everyone seemed to make sense. Not dealing with it. Wing desktop. It seems that the First Empire is a bit unusual. After the Holy Ling ceremony is over, I have turned around. Really? It's good. Looking at the expectant eyes of the high-ranking officials of the Holy See, the three little girls behind him covered their mouths and laughed secretly, and Wright could not help but droop his face. "Come back, okay? Now is not the time for you to cry and shout for me to come back to solve the problem. Wow, it's really better to use people to move forward instead of backward. What do you mean by holy light represents truth, goodness, and beauty? I really believed your lies. We should let Afra come down to see what her believers are doing. Where is the holy light spirit? How can you set an example for the holy light believers in the world?" Archbishop Cadwin muttered softly. "If the goddess knew, she might laugh out loud." Wright collapsed in his seat. His eyes lost their luster. "I'm tired. Destroy it. Holy light is dead. Wright should be the leader." But the Sunlight Great Sword suddenly appeared, bursting with dazzling light. Wright pressed it down with his backhand and forcibly took it into his hand. "Actually, these things are insignificant." Wright stood up. "I now propose to declare a full-scale war on the remnants of the Truth Party. A mild policy toward the enemy will only make the enemy more rampant. We must strike hard. Through this ceremony, we want to announce that all magicians in the Holy Land are required to be registered. Any transaction of magic items must also be recorded." Hiss. Everyone present took a breath and Mason's face was full of worry. "Your Highness Wright, are you going to restart the witch hunt from 50 years ago? If so, some neutral magicians will be forced to join the enemy camp." Archbishop Cadwin raised his hand. "I agree with Wright's proposal. Now we have the Holy Pope assassinated one after another, and the special envoys of the Holy Kingdom have rebelled. And they are the heirs of the royal family. The problem is so serious that it must be rectified." The cardinal also raised his hand. "I agree. This matter can no longer be tolerated. Our Holy Light Church is not a coward who only takes a beating and does not fight back. What's more, others are shitting on our necks." Led by the two archbishops, others also raised their hands to support Wright's proposal. Seeing this, Wright stood up. "Well, I'll trouble you with the specific details. I won't participate in the remaining unimportant topics. Goodbye, everyone." It seems that everyone in the meeting was used to Wright's leaving midway, and no one said anything. The three girls followed Wright out of the meeting room, and Emily asked curiously, "Why is he in such a hurry?" Lilith chuckled at the sight. "How can he not be in a hurry? He is going to the Holy Tower to meet his old lover." Chapter 90. What is the name of someone who doesn't listen? Additional. I've made sufficient preparations for this trip. On the top floor of the Holy Tower, Wright stood in front of Jonah's bed, looking very confident. Emily's eyes widened. "Really? Have you found a way to break the witch's curse?" "You're stupid. If I found it, I would definitely use you as an experiment first." Wright hooked his finger at Lilith. "Give it to me." Lilith reluctantly pulled out a folding chair from the space crack and handed it to him. Wright took it and sat down on it very smoothly and crossed his legs. "Look, you don't have to stand this time." "Then why don't you just sit on the bed?" Wright was silent for a while, then stretched out his hand and pressed it on Jonah's forehead, closed his eyes, and began to use his mental power to check the situation of the witch's curse in her body. With the memory of the legendary strongman, plus the reminder of the Blood Witch Scarlet, Wright's examination of Jonah this time was more targeted. After a while, fine beads of sweat appeared on Wright's forehead. Lilith saw this and took out her handkerchief to wipe it off for him. "Don't force yourself." Hiss. Ha. Wright slowly opened his eyes. The Blood Witch's words are probably 70% to 80% credible. Lilith was stunned for a moment. Blood Witch? Well, before I asked you to get the sword, I went to the Tavern of Adros first. Wright briefly summarized the content of his questioning in the tavern, and Lilith was also very surprised after hearing it. 70% to 80%, isn't it a bit high? From the perspective of interests, Scarlet hopes to steal the power of the witch. According to Marcillion's behavior and Emily's current situation, the power of the witch should be able to be stolen, but the premise is that it is mature and has not been in the witch feast. If we remove the seal and let Jonah awaken successfully, let's not talk about other things first. Scarlet may find it difficult to steal this power. Wright looked at Jonah, who was sleeping, and his mood was a little complicated. I checked more carefully this time, and I did find some wrong directions. Jonah's will seems to be resisting awakening. He moved the chair and changed to a more comfortable position. When Vanessa was about to die, the goddess blessing spell in her body was activated. I thought that the spell would be triggered only after the host died. Now I think that this spell should be directly triggered when the host's life is in danger. And as a saint, Vanessa was born a paladin and can control this power. Jonah should not have failed to bless the goddess and entered a state of suspended animation, unless she noticed something and forcibly turned the blessing power into a seal. Lilith stood at the head of the bed and looked at Jonah. She is obviously a saint of the Holy Light Church, but she has the power to extinguish light. To the god she worships devoutly, she is a dangerous person. At that moment, she should have been very desperate. Perhaps she really wanted to end her life at that time, but the goddess blessing made it impossible for her to choose death, so she chose to use eternal sleep to protect the church. Hey, restrain your expression. It will scare the devil. Wright rubbed his cheeks. I'm now 50% sure that I can unlock the witch's seal. After I test it on Emily, it will probably be increased to 80%. Emily pouted. Hey, don't discuss this kind of thing in front of me. In order to repay your kindness, I'm willing. But at least give me a chance to be righteous. So, now in addition to continuing to improve the means of removing the witch's seal, do you have to find a way to suppress Sister Jonah's witch power? Lilith suddenly said, there is one thing I want to remind you. If the power in Jonah's body is contrary to the holy light, then your plan to let her become Aphra from God through the God's covenant, that is, your middle plan, I'm afraid it will not work. You see, do you want to notify the demon world and prepare to welcome their demon queen to come? However, Jonah is different from those high-level officials in your church. She is pious and faithful to the holy light. If she ascends to the devil, she will be. Wright waved his hand. The worst plan is just a backup plan. We can't pin our hopes on it. Since the witch's power is man-made, it can be removed by human power. What I'm more worried about now is that the Holy Advent ceremony is imminent, and we haven't figured out what the enemy wants to do. Flando, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. Could their target be God? Why do you say that? Flando came forward. Actually, there have always been some relatively radical small groups of believers in Protestantism. They are very resistant to the attitude of the Goddess of Holy Light. There are even rumors that when the Goddess of Holy Advent descends on the day of the Advent, the new god will ascend to the throne. Such a thing. Why didn't you say it earlier? Flando was a little embarrassed. Master, calm down. Such remarks are very radical and intolerable even within our Protestant church. The Pope of Protestantism has also expressly prohibited the spread of such remarks, because this will cause the Protestant church, whose status is already precarious, to suffer more criticism and attacks. I also think that these words will make Master unhappy, so. Wright stroked his chin. This is a new direction. Then I have to quickly defend the God of Light. Otherwise, if I'm really expelled by the Goddess of Holy Light, there will be no fun, right? Even Lilith, who is a demon, couldn't stand it. Hey, which side are you on? Is there any need to ask? Of course I'm on my side. Just as several people were arguing, the Pope appeared at the door of the room. Ha. I knew you kid hadn't left yet. The old Pope walked quickly to Wright's side, pushed him away, and sat on the folding chair. He took out a stack of papers from his arms and handed them over. Look, these are the details that everyone discussed regarding the registration of magicians and the restrictions on the sale of magic items. Wright only glanced at it. Too many. The more detailed you make some regulations, the more likely it is to cause problems. When the Holy See issues a notice, the words and sentences should be vague to leave room for themselves. The final right of interpretation is in their own hands, so every item must have room for interpretation. After saying that, he reached out and picked up the top one and looked at it. Then his face was full of disgust. Why are all of them forbidden, prohibited, and forbidden? There is no humanity at all. It's so cold and uncomfortable. Ha. Then what do you say we should do? Tomorrow, after Idris takes office as the vice president of the temple and serves as the acting president, I will ask him to set up a magic mutual aid foundation in the name of the temple. In the name of the foundation, we will provide strong financial support to magicians and provide financial help for their study and further education. Of course, it will be our magicians. The sale of magic items is useless if it is blocked. What tax increase? What fine? It's too childish. It's too easy for magicians to make money. Just fool a few brainless nobles. This will only benefit the black market in the end and let the people pay for it. The Pope's expression became much more serious. That makes sense. Go on. We must control the raw materials. All the magic crystals. The source of magic potions. The grinding and production workshop. Strangle the source of production. If anyone disobeys, just cut off their supply. Make sure they can't buy it, even if they have money. Wright returned the paper to the Pope. From now on, those who listen to the Holy See are called white magicians. Those who disobey. Emily quickly took over the conversation. Call them black magicians? Call them corpses. After Wright said that, he came to the Pope. Teacher, I have a favor to ask you. What is it? Didn't I give you the holy man badge? No, you must agree to this. Wright looked at Flando on the side. Isn't there a vacant position for the saint? I plan to support Flando to take the position. Thank you very much for your votes, rewards, and subscriptions. Huangdao is grateful. I turn 360 degrees to thank you. There will be more updates in the future. In return for your support and love. Book friends who like to chat and do nothing can join the reader group. Let's have fun together. Chapter 91 All Tactics Transformation. When the Pope heard what Wright said, he looked at him in surprise and then looked at Flando, who was full of surprise. What do you want to do? The Pope didn't wait for him to speak and directly pulled him out of the door. Okay, go ahead. Is it necessary to come out? There is no soundproofing here. I just think you are going to make some shocking remarks again in order to prevent the blasphemy against the goddess, so I brought you out. The Pope looked exhausted. At least it's not in front of the goddess statue. This is the last bit of dignity I can keep for the goddess. Wright shook his head speechlessly. It's like this. I plan to help Flando to the position of the new apprentice saint. Then take this opportunity to carry forward the new religion. It's the sect that does not worship the goddess of light, but worships the god of light. Are you crazy? Do you think the goddess will agree to do this? She will fight you to the death. Wright waved his hands again and again. Don't worry, I do this for a better tomorrow for the holy light. After this holy day of Advent, I will find a way to change the faith and make everyone recognize that the god of light is actually the goddess of holy light. In this way, there will be no loss for Afra. Then why did you go to so much trouble to make Protestantism rise? To take the enemy's path and leave the enemy with no way to go. Then, Wright told the Pope about everyone's speculation that the enemy was going to steal the throne of God during the holy day of Advent, and the latter pondered for a long time after hearing it. I have to say, this move is vicious. Although it sounds absurd, but if all the prerequisites can be met, those crazy people in the Tower of Truth may be able to do it. The Pope thought about it and suddenly reacted. No, what does this have to do with your promotion of Protestantism? In this case, shouldn't Protestantism be restricted, or even banned? Then assist the goddess to kill this god of light and be done with it. If you kill the second place, the third will become the second. The god of light is the second place in public. Are you sure they haven't prepared other gods of light in secret? Wright stretched out his hand and slowly held it. In this case, the second place should be taken down and made into a mode for the first place. And if you want to control a god, you have to control its believers. We write its doctrines. We define its divinity. We interpret its decrees. Even if the enemy's conspiracy succeeds at that time, the superior god of light will still be under our control. What's more, for the church, there is a second place in control, and it is also a checks and balance of a frap, isn't it? In the future, she can pull me with me, and I can point to her nose. Worked for others. Light is full of confidence. We are not doing it. All the tactical conversions. The Pope was a little moved at this moment. That's right, but I have seen you mission. To be honest, your behavior is really difficult to be defined as missionary. The Pope hesitated. Okay. But there is one thing. If you want to develop Protestantism, do it yourself. A Holy See will not provide a penny. Moreover, some things cannot be done too much. The holy day of Advent is coming in another week, so you have to give us some face. Wright rolled his eyes. It was okay to develop Protestantism, but it was wishful thinking to deduct half a copper peso from the teacher. Don't worry, I know my limits. Ha. The Pope could only sneer at Wright's assurance. If he knew his limits, he would not be a holy sin. I will go back and draft a document for you. Although the process will take some time, as long as you have this draft, it should be enough for you to make a fuss, right? Then, thank you, teacher. Wright bowed deeply to the Pope's departing back, and then returned to the room. Looking at Flando's expectant eyes, Wright smiled slightly. Okay, you will be one of the apprentice saints in the future. Flando was so excited that she trembled all over. Really? But didn't you say that the Protestant church and those people don't worry about other things? I'll take care of them. You just need to be a good saint and help me to promote the Protestant church. Yes, Master. Flando was so excited that tears welled up in her eyes and she couldn't calm down for a long time. Emily pulled her aside, congratulating her and comforting her. Lilith looked behind her. Why did the Pope leave? He went back to draft documents and catch up on sleep. This time, I guess I have to listen to Afra's crazy complaints for 16 hours. Wright stood by the bed and opened his hands. Countless holy lights poured out, engraving several seals and holy words in Jonah's body. Originally, the magic spell he set on Jonah was very comprehensive, but there were new circumstances after this investigation, so he made temporary revisions and reinforcement, which was considered a few patches to improve safety. Then, Wright used the bed as a boundary and set up several powerful seals to prevent any lawless people from running here to cause trouble. Okay, let's go. We still have a lot of things to prepare. After doing all this, Wright took the three beautiful girls out of the holy tower. When they walked outside the Pope's palace, Wright stopped. Flando, you go back to the Protestant church and announce this good news. Lilith, you take Emily to see it and protect her safety by the way. It's no problem for me. I'm free anyway. What about you? What are you going to do? Wright smiled mysteriously. I'll go to the Chamber of Commerce to see and prepare some things. Tomorrow, I'll show you how to develop an unpopular sect in a short period of time. Let's go. The Pope's palace is not close to the Chamber of Commerce headquarters on the commercial street. When Wright arrived, it was already getting dark. Grandad, who was directing the closing of the snack street, saw Wright and ran over quickly. Boss, you're here. Grandad, I have a lot of things to trouble you and the Chamber of Commerce with. Boss, look at what you said. These two streets are yours, and I'm just your steward. If it weren't for you, our group of people would still be wandering around without a fixed place to live. What trouble is it? You said, I will go through fire and water for you. Wright smiled and patted his shoulder. No need to go through fire and water. You just need to prepare a lot of eggs for me. Chicken, eggs. Yes, and call the best performers on the temple debt collection stage. I'm going to recruit them. Chapter 92 Seeking benefits for family members. The Holy Light Church has an unwritten rule that the Holy Sin Temple must not be allowed to preach. Because its preaching behavior is simple, crude, and extremely aggressive, it mainly aims to eradicate the roots and leave no one behind. And the believers who join the church through its preaching will basically not integrate into the mainstream sects. They may even be infected with its fierce preaching ability and in turn plunder the believers of other sects. Therefore, the biggest feature of all holy sin sects is that there is no missionary position. Because all of them are fanatical missionaries, all the serious sects are terrified when talking about it and strictly prohibit their members from having any contact with the holy sin faction. That's not preaching at all. The Pope of a faction that suffered greatly from it once cried in public. That's simply a plague. It's a spreading disease and a contagious curse. Early in the morning, the peaceful Shengan town became lively. I don't know who leaked the news, and everyone knew that a new sect was coming to Shengan town to hold a cultural performance. Not only did people watch it for free, but they would also be given half a pound of eggs after watching it. Half a pound per person. Just come and get it. In fact, for people in the holy city, half a pound of eggs is not very attractive. But for those living in Shengan town, some have just solved the problem of food and clothing, and some are still struggling for tomorrow's food. Eggs are precious food to them. Although it is only half a pound, it is free. If you don't take advantage of a bargain, you are a bastard. So, when Wright held an event in Shengan town on the first day in the name of Protestantism, the scene was directly packed. There were so many people that you couldn't see the end at a glance. It can be said that all the families in Shengan town came to support. In some families, young and middle-aged couples went out to work and also sent the elderly and children to the scene to make up for the crowd. Looking at the dense crowd, Flando, who was standing backstage, was extremely nervous. "Master, there are so many people outside. I'm a little scared," Wright said solemnly while cracking melon seeds. "What are you afraid of? These are all our future believers. We are a Protestant sect, and members of the sect are brothers and sisters. Although there are many people, they are all your family members. What are you afraid of with your family members?" Lilith and Emily cracked melon seeds and nodded like chickens pecking at broken rice. "That's right. Master, I don't understand why we don't go to the holy city to preach, but have to come to Shengan town." Wright threw the melon seed shells in his hand into the trash can. "Look, the holy city is this tabletop, and Shengan town is actually this trash can. All sects like to preach in the holy city, and some even avoid Shengan town on purpose. In their view, Shengan town is a place where laborers, servants, and waiters live. The real orthodoxy is in the holy city. Preaching in Shengan town is a loss of face and a lowering of status. Even some evil cults have set up their main bases for preaching in the holy city." Emily raised her hands repeatedly. I know, just like the primordial fire sect. Although the foundation is in Shengan town, they are still intent on drilling into the city. Only when the city is severely cracked down, they want to turn the direction of preaching back to Shengan town. Wright smiled slightly. "Yes. So there is a big fat piece of meat in the holy city next door, let alone the legitimate sects. Even the evil cults look down on the chicken ribs of Shengan town. But I think that Shengan town is the place where our new religion will rise. It is a secret treasure that has been ignored by everyone. In terms of the number of people, Shengan town is actually not much different from the holy city. Note that I'm talking about the permanent population. Although the streets of the holy city are crowded, they are all tourists and pilgrims, and they will not stay here for a long time. In terms of geographical location, Shengan town is next to the holy city. As long as we take this place, although we can't compare with the first, no one in the world dares to compete with us for the second. As for the difficulty of preaching, it is even simpler. The residents here are basically believers of holy light. We just need to persuade them to convert to our sect. Our Protestantism was born not long ago. Not only is the foundation weak, but it also seems out of place, because the doctrine is too bold. In the city, we have to face the encirclement and exclusion of many old factions. That is a red ocean. But here, we are at the top of the food chain. Look at the enemies we are facing. Exiled sects, evil heretics. I can do this kind of activity here openly. Do they dare? Imagine it. If the entire holy work town becomes the territory of the Protestantism, then what is our status in the church? Flando suddenly realized and looked at Wright with more admiration. But thinking of those people outside, he was a little worried. "But, Master, with so many people, I'm afraid I'm not capable enough. What if we don't gain many believers after this event?" Wright laughed after hearing this. Rome was not built in a day, and developing believers does not mean that you have to fight to the death today. There are only two things you have to do today. First, let everyone know that our Protestantism is an orthodox sect. We have approval documents and are certified by the Holy See. It is different from those evil ways that preach in Shengang Town on weekdays. Believe in us. There is a guarantee. Second, your name is Saint Flando. You are the new trainee saint of the Holy Light Church, and also the leader of the Protestantism. Remember, you have to go on stage before each show starts. No matter how many times you go on stage today, you must keep emphasizing these 2 points. Even if it makes them feel bored, they must remember it firmly. Don't talk about doctrines. Flando nodded as if she understood, but Emily couldn't sit still. If not teaching, what can you use to attract them? Eggs. Yes, after the event, Flando, tell everyone that there will be eggs at the same time tomorrow. Wright looked at the time and pushed Flando. Okay, it's your turn to go on stage. Give this wonderful performance a good start. Yes, Master. Flando took a deep breath, walked onto the stage, and began her missionary journey today. Although she had never preached like this, she felt particularly at ease with Wright backstage. Hearing the warm applause from the front, Emily moved closer to Wright. Light, tell me, what are you going to do? Light smiled and said, to preach. Didn't I say that at the beginning? Are you really preaching? Let me ask you, why do you believe in God? Emily frowned slightly. To have a place to stay psychologically, to have a place to rely on for the soul, and to have a guide for the future. Of course it is like this for a noble lady like you who has no worries about food and clothing. But for the poor masses, the biggest motivation for believing in God is the hope of living a good life. But you have to understand that the definition of living a good life is very vague and very general. What is a good life? The trick used by most sects or pagan religions when preaching is that if you believe in our God, you will definitely live a good life in the future. To put it bluntly, it is just drawing cakes. Now they can't give you anything, they can only make up a benefit for you. So in the past missionary wars, it was actually a competition of drawing cakes. See who draws the most beautiful, who draws the most colorful, fragrant, and delicious, who draws the largest but reasonable and credible. But we are different. We give eggs. We invite people to watch a show. There is a guy who brings everyone together and makes them laugh about the same thing. When the show ends, they can get precious gifts. This is a good life. And he directly seeks benefits for the families so that everyone can live a good life. He doesn't have any strange requests for everyone. He just wants to tell everyone what his name is and hopes to get to know everyone. What bad intentions can such a guy have? Would you like such a guy? Emily nodded slightly. According to what you said, compared with the gods of other factions, this guy does look pretty good. At least it makes people feel very close. This is the purpose of this event, fame and favorability. At this time, Flando, who had finished the announcement work, returned to the backstage. Her little face was flushed, and she looked very excited. Are you done? I'm done. My lord, I finally understand why you make me emphasize this every time I go on stage. The scene is so noisy. I estimate that only 1 in 10 people can hear me if I say it once, and even fewer can hear it clearly. What's more, they just want to watch the show and don't care about what I said at all. Even when I mentioned the new apprentice saint, their reactions were very average. Indeed, they need to say it over and over again so that they can barely remember and have an impression. Emily looked at Wright in shock. Why can you even predict this? This is not the first time you have done such a thing, right? You are so nosy. Aren't you curious about where the doctrine is? Wright pointed in the direction of the audience seats. Go, watch the shows. These are all carefully selected by me, and they are quite interesting. Emily was skeptical, but still pulled Lilith to the audience seats to watch. Taking advantage of this time, Flando came forward and said, Master, it would be bad if I said directly that I'm the leader of the Protestant church. What if the Pope disagrees? How many people are there in your Protestant church now? When this group of believers join, the old members will be rapidly diluted. Besides, the people in Shengang Town are very simple-minded and have no time to play tricks. They are actually like fledglings that have just hatched. When they see you for the first time, they basically recognize you. I'll say hello to the Red Church later. Pope. If we say he is, then he is. Wright hit Flando's hand that was reaching for the melon seeds. What are you eating? You have to go on stage soon. Eating too much of this will damage your throat. Master, I'm a little hungry. Then eat some fruit. Wright was happily crunching his teeth. You have to give speeches more often in the future, so you have to protect your throat. By the way, how is your practice of the Ring of Light going? Flando quickly condensed the Ring of Light and showed it to Wright. But, you are very skilled now. From now on, every time you cast a spell, you must release a light ring on your head. Flando was stunned. Do you need to cast a spell? Wouldn't it be more convenient for me to use a power of holy light directly? We are Protestant, and we must distinguish ourselves from other factions in appearance. The unique clergy robes you made before are very good, and the light ring on your head is also for the same reason. Others can see at a glance that we are Protestant clergy. Oh, I remember it, Master. Wright put down the remaining melon seeds, stood up and stretched. Just in time. I will teach you some practical holy light tricks. These are new holy light spells that have not been recorded by the Holy See, and they will be the foundation of Protestantism in the future. Really? That's great. Taking advantage of the gap between the performances, Wright began to teach Flando some holy light theories and self-developed holy light spells. After all, she would be a trainee saint next. If she was too weak and had no special skills, she would become a laughingstock. Wright naturally would not allow this to happen. After all, she would be the poster girl of the Protestant church in the future. In this way, one show after another, Flando took the opportunity of the announcement to go on stage, to deepen the impression of the public, and then continued to study the way of holy light with Wright. After about 3 or 5 shows, Lilith couldn't hold it anymore. She dragged Emily back with disgust on her face. Come back. Sit down. You can't go anywhere now. What for? I'm just watching 2 shows. I'm really speechless. Lilith sat next to Wright in anger and snatched the orange he had peeled. You are a noble lady after all. Why do you believe in everything you see? Right, you should take care of it. Otherwise, she will be kidnapped sooner or later. She watched a few shows and suddenly told me mysteriously that Protestantism is the destination of her soul and the harbor of her heart. What? The doctrine of Protestantism coincides with her understanding of the holy light. Emily was not convinced. That's it. Come on. You almost apostatized and believed in the original fire the other day. Wright gave a thumbs up. Okay, Emily, you are really good at making the devil so angry. Is your resistance to missionary work negative? Every time we fool others, what do you want to do by believing it first? The shows performed outside were urgently rehearsed by the excellent actors of the temple debt collection stage that I found. The purpose is to allow everyone to complete the memory writing of the doctrine while watching the show. Some hilarious jokes, some weird dances, some interesting witticisms. Let the doctrine be integrated with these. As they spread, the doctrine can also spread wider and farther. By the way, I made up a few nursery rhymes for the children to sing when they go back. You listen to them later. Don't sing along. Got it? Got it. Although Emily agreed, she still moved closer to Flando with an intimate look on her face. Lilith covered her face helplessly. Is she really a magician of all disciplines? Don't magicians have high mental strength? Their resistance should be very strong. Wright shrugged. If what the Blood Witch said is true, witches are humanoid weapons, and they are specially prepared to restrain a certain group, then I also doubt that when Emily was suppressing the magician group, she was fooled into believing in the gate of truth. Regarding this point, I don't think Emily is necessarily trying to restrain magicians. Do you think it is possible that her existence is to restrain the elves? Wright stroked his chin. It is very likely. Before Jonah awakened, her talent for holy light was also extremely high. Who would have thought that she had the power to exterminate holy light in her body? If Emily awakens, she will have the power to destroy demons, which will indeed be a devastating blow to the elves. But even if she restrains the elves, she may be fooled into believing in the goddess of life. This is a flaw in the factory settings, and it can't be saved. Emily puffed her face and pinched her waist. Hey. The more you talk, the more you go too far. Protestant doctrine tells us, a kind word warms you through the winter, but an evil word hurts you through the summer. People should be kind to others. Only in this way can we have a bright future. Lilith looked at Wright. Is this also a Protestant doctrine? If so, I changed some details to make it sound more intelligent and better for spreading. At this moment, a group of young and strong men with big swords on their backs found the backstage. When they saw Wright, they all knelt down on the ground. Pope, 194 members of the Synlight sect have responded to your call. Very good. I finally waited for you. Chapter 93, Kill the Missionaries. Subscription request. After hearing the name of the Synlight sect, Lilith and the other two stood up instantly. There was no way. The Holy Sword had left a deep impression on the three of them. Right, what do you want them to do? Wright summoned the Synlight Great Sword, of course, to preach. But, they don't belong to the Protestant Church. The leading Synlight sect member shouted loudly, the Synlight sect can belong to any sect, and it doesn't belong to any sect. Synlight is the ruler. It is the judge, the sanctioner. It is also the judge. We will be free from the rules, bear everything, correct everything. Emily's mind turned again and again, and finally came to a conclusion. Based on her intuition, this exiled sect looks so dangerous. From now on, you are Protestants. Yes, Pope. From now on, we are Protestants. Wright walked to the side of several carts in the backstage, stretched out his hand, and removed the linen covering them with a rustle. Everyone looked and saw that the carts were full of shovels, baskets and various tools. Sinful lights. There is an old saying that goes, a blacksmith must be strong himself. We keep saying that we want to judge and adjudicate others. If this is just arrogant talk from a high position, then what is the difference between our actions and those of sinful people? The more a tree wants to seek light upwards, the more its roots need to reach out to the dark soil. Only by bearing everything and experiencing everything first, can you be qualified to judge everything. So, sinful lights, are you just the light dust that can only talk nonsense? Of course not. Very good. Wright picked up one of the shovels and carried it on his shoulders. Then come with me and do what we can for the people here. Shengang Town has always lacked reasonable planning and management. Everyone likes to dump sewage and litter. The vacant lot in the north has now become a natural garbage dump. In the summer, mosquitoes breed and the smell is overflowing, but no one is willing to clean it up. Today, I will take everyone to clean up the garbage together. Then build the first church of our Protestant sect on that vacant lot. We will build our city-state on the ruins. If you can't bear this hardship, you can choose to quit. Synlight doesn't need trash who can only talk. Nearly 200 young men held their heads high. Obviously, those who joined the Synlight sect with passion would not admit that they were cowards here. Please give the order, Pope. Okay. Follow me. Wright pointed at Lilith and the other two. You just stay here and wait for us to return triumphantly. More than 190 people, more than 10 carts, went to the open space in the north of Shengang Town. Originally, this group of people were in high spirits, but when they really arrived at the garbage dump, their faces changed immediately. The mountains of garbage, the strong and strange stench, the flowing unknown liquid. You can quit at any time. Wright didn't say anything, but was the first to carry a shovel into the garbage dump and started cleaning up. Seeing that Wright had done it, the others followed him one by one. However, just as Wright expected, some of the gang disappeared while they were working. Wright did not stop those guys who escaped halfway, nor did he allow others to stop them. He wanted to use this behavior to filter the so-called Synlight sect. Although it is an exiled sect, it has not, and will not be officially recognized. But they gathered together because of themselves. If they don't have this awareness and perseverance, then there is nothing wrong with torturing themselves until they disband. If they can really stick to it, then their existence will also be good for the Holy Light Church. Left and right, no compensation. However, this garbage dump is really smelly. Wright consciously thought that he had experienced ups and downs in the past 3 years, but he was still almost disgusted. But as time went by, everyone gradually became numb. Habit is a very terrible state. No matter how bad the environment is, no matter how messy the things are, once you get used to it, it will be the same. With the end of the last show on the stage, the people who received the eggs also set out on their journey home. They soon discovered that a group of strangers were working hard to clean up the garbage in the unattended garbage dump. Who are you? Hello, we are Protestants. What are you doing? We see so much garbage here, so we clean it up. After all, so much garbage piled up here is not only smelly, but also easy to pollute the water source. If the elderly and children at home get sick, it will be bad. But this is not your responsibility. The Protestants touched their faces and showed a simple smile. God loves the world. As God's messengers, we must also do our best to make everyone live a good life. The people in Shengang town were stunned. Which of the clergy they saw on weekdays was not high and mighty, wishing that their nostrils grew on the top of their foreheads. They ate delicacies, wore silk and satin, and lived a life thousands of times more affluent than ordinary people. With my status, it is a great honor to be able to say a word or two to the other party. If you want to ask for a blessing on weekdays, you don't know what price you have to pay. Now, the new religion. This is the first time I heard of it. Not only did they invite us to watch the show for free, they also gave us half a pound of eggs. There were so many people in the venue. How many eggs would that be? Also, every time the little girl came on stage, she seemed to say that she was some kind of trainee saint. In the past, how could we be qualified to see those trainee saints and saints? But now, she came here in person and met everyone again and again. She also asked the honorable messengers of God to clean up the garbage in the town. This. What kind of sect is this? I have never experienced it. At this moment, most of the residents of Shengang town had a very high liking for this so-called new religion. They even decided on the spot that they must join the religion. At the same time, many residents also spontaneously joined the cleaning team. After this experience, about half of the more than 190 SYNOPSIS left, leaving only more than 100 people. But the remaining tools were soon picked up by the residents of Shengang town. Those who did not receive the tools also returned home to get the tools. The speed of cleaning up the garbage on site suddenly increased. Upon seeing this, Wright immediately gave a group blessing, which ensured everyone's physical strength and dispelled the unpleasant smell. The SYNOPSIS were very surprised by Wright's actions, but they soon convinced themselves. This is a trial. It is a trial for the Pope to test whether his mind is tough. So the sufferings before were all deserved. And now, the blessing halo is blessing. It means that the test is over, and he and others have passed. Praise the SYNOPSIS. With more people joining in, the garbage in the venue was quickly cleaned up. And because the soil on the ground had been contaminated, everyone dug down a part and transported the stinky mud out. When the last cart returned to the open space, the people present cheered and applauded. Such a problem that has plagued Shengang town for many years was solved in just one day. The sense of accomplishment and honor brought by the successful completion of the huge project, as well as the sense of identity generated by the joint work, have brought the public's recognition of Protestantism to a new height. Thinking back to the other missionaries, they were either arrogant or full of empty words. Only this new religion was down to earth and practical. Who should we believe in? Everyone knew it clearly. At this time, Lilith and Flounder also came over. Seeing this, Wright immediately pulled Flounder over and whispered a few words in her ear. Then, he helped Flounder stand on a cart. Everyone, we, the Protestant Church, plan to build a comprehensive center here. Here, there will be a place for the elderly to rest and chat, and there will also be a place for children to laugh and play. We will also arrange people to come regularly to help the children read and learn to write. Provide free medical treatment for everyone. We will not only build a new garbage transfer station, we will also build a new drinking water purification center. I hope everyone believes. We, the Protestant Church, will never talk in vain. We, the Protestant Church, we are real. We fight for a bright and beautiful future for everyone. Long live the light. The light will last forever. Long live the light. The light will last forever. Long live the light. The light will last forever. Long live the light. The light will last forever. The enthusiasm of the residents was very high, and they stayed there for a long time. It was not until Flounder persuaded them that everyone dispersed and went home one after another. After everyone left, Wright called the remaining SYNOPSIS together. You did a great job. After this experience, I hope you can have a deeper understanding of the meaning of SYNOPSIS. Pope, we feel more fulfilled than ever before. Work hard. I have confidence in you. If there are new experiences, I will look for you again. Pope, please call us. It is our great honor to be able to participate in the experience and temper our character with you. Yes. Okay. Definitely next time. After sending away the Synlight believers and the actors of the Chamber of Commerce, only Wright and the other 4 were left at the scene. Looking at the huge pit, Lilith couldn't help but sigh. This day feels like a dream. All of a sudden, there are 4 or 5,000 more believers. Wright chuckled. When they go back, they will tell those who didn't come home about what happened today. I guess there will be more people watching the show tomorrow, and then you can call on everyone to join Protestantism. Remember, join Protestantism and get 2 pounds of eggs. If you introduce someone else to join Protestantism, you will get 2 pounds of eggs for that person, and the introducer will get another ½ pound. Emily was shocked. Do we have so many eggs? The important thing is not the eggs. If there are no eggs, won't there be duck eggs? If there are no duck eggs, won't there be copper pesos and silver crowns? The important thing is to spread it. It is to inspire everyone's sense of being the protagonist. It is to let everyone exert their subjective initiative. Together, we will contribute to the establishment and development of Protestantism. Is there a problem? Emily narrowed her eyes. It sounds fine, but why do I intuitively feel that there is a problem, and a big problem? Problems exist dialectically. Okay. Lilith quickly grabbed Wright. Don't beat around the bush with her. She's not smart to begin with. If you're really going to get you confused, what should you do? Tell me first. Now that the Protestant church is developing well, what should we do next? Wright grinned. Tomorrow. Continue tomorrow. Flando will do as I say. As for me, I'm going to take people to repair the roads in Shengan town first. Today, the benefits were given to those who stayed at home. But most of them are old people and children. Even if they go home and hear the stories told by the old people, it's not as real as feeling them. So road construction is a must. Make the roads they take to go to work every day wide and smooth. They can really feel the benefits of Protestantism. As for the comprehensive center, drinking water purification plant, and garbage disposal station just mentioned, it doesn't matter if they postpone it for a while. Emily curled her lips. Aren't you just drawing cakes? Drawing cakes is what cannot be realized, and planning is what can be realized step by step. Wright opened his arms, looking a little excited. By the end of the second day, the entire Shengan town will become the cradle of our believers. But this is not enough. Someone once said, no one will like you just because you like her. You will not be respected if you just flatter others. If you are too nice to others, they will be wary of you. So, on the third day, we have to teach these people the most important lesson, respect. Protestantism will lead everyone to take back the rights and interests that belong to them. So far, Protestantism will become the undisputed leader of the entire Shengan town. When the sun rises on the fourth day, Protestantism will become the second largest faction in the Holy Light Church. It is also the largest opposition sect besides the Orthodox sects. We will create a bright future. Lilith was dumbfounded. To be honest, ordinary cults are not as evil as you. But you better calm down. We still have other things to do. There is news from the Pope's palace that the envoys from various countries have arrived one after another, and the envoys from foreign races are also about to arrive. As the custodian of the Holy City, you have to host the triennial Crying Poor Conference. Also, you will be the host of the exchange meeting with the alien delegation. You will also have to attend the summit meeting of the elves, dwarves and other aliens. The preparations for the Holy Advent ceremony are nearing completion, and many projects are waiting for your acceptance. I would also like to invite you to the election ceremony of the Vice President of the Temple and the inauguration ceremony of the acting president. In addition, Dragon Island has replied that the Pope is waiting for you to attend the second meeting. And stop. Wright was full of energy just now, but now he is like a deflated balloon, and the whole person is listless. Why are there so many meetings to be held? Wright rubbed his cheeks. Lilith, arrange these things in my schedule according to time and urgency. It seems that I will be forced to be a master of time management. Okay, then. Tomorrow morning, let's talk with the special envoy of the Elf Empire first. 10,000 words. Please praise. By the way, Huang Dao has just arrived at the starting point, and he doesn't understand the update of chapters. Please give me some advice. Which is better, 333 244, or 22,222. Chapter 94. If you don't drink, nothing will be done. Wright arranged the meeting with the envoy of the Elf Empire at his home. He planned to complete the meeting while eating breakfast. This way, he could save time to the greatest extent. Because the kitchen had not been repaired yet, Wright ordered breakfast from the Holy Rose Manor early in the morning. When the elven envoy Sophia Redman arrived, the meals were still hot. After 3 years of not seeing each other, the years have not left any traces on the face of this female elf. She is still generous and elegant, with golden curly hair and the unique beauty of the elves. She is already out of control, but her curvy figure is still a sharp knife. After the two exchanged greetings, they began to sit down to eat. The elves have a relatively light diet, and Sophia is a little uncomfortable with it. Mr. Wright, why didn't you make breakfast yourself this time? My kitchen was attacked by unknown terrorists 2 days ago, and it has not been repaired yet. Sophia chuckled twice. Mr. Wright is so humorous. Is there anyone in this holy city who dares to attack your manor? Why not? Someone assassinated the Pope 2 days ago. Wright put the green leaves in the bread, put 2 pieces of bacon in it, spread some salad dressing, covered the bread slices, and took a big bite. The crunching sound made Sophia frown slightly. We have also heard a little about this matter. I heard that it was the group of lunatics in the Tower of Truth. The Tower of Truth has been destroyed for many years. How can there still be remnants who act recklessly? Then there must be someone supporting them behind the scenes. Wright threw half a homemade sandwich on the plate. After so many years, I still can't get used to this stuff. By the way, I heard that you brought your team here this time. Where is your princess? Sophia's mouth twitched. Your Highness, because she was frightened by Mr. Wright's behavior last time, she has not recovered yet. She will be awakened by nightmares when she sleeps on weekdays. That's really sorry. I thought she was 300 or 400 years old at the time, so I didn't avoid her. I forgot that you elves are immortal species, and this age is not considered adulthood. Wright deliberately used a table knife to cover the ketchup, and then smeared it on the sandwich that had been bitten. This behavior seemed to remind Sophia of some bad memories, and she subconsciously covered her mouth. Miss Sophia, I heard that the magic potions of the Elf Empire are the best in the whole continent. Recently, they are very popular. Ah, no. Mr. Wright must have misunderstood. Our magic potions and magic materials are all made by ourselves for our own use. We have never traded them, let alone sold them to human countries. Wright raised his eyelids. Did I mention humans just now? I mean, Miss Sophia, don't panic. Magic potions and magic materials are not contraband. You sold them before, and you made money, so you didn't shudder. But after this holy ceremony, the situation is different. All human holy vassal states will be subject to magic control. From magicians to magic supplies, magic props and magic potions, they all need to be restricted. Sophia couldn't sit still anymore and stood up. What? Mr. Wright, are you serious? The assassination of the Pope is an intolerable event for the Holy Light Church. The whole Vatican is very angry. If it weren't for me suppressing it, the world would have been a river of blood long ago. Wright said calmly, this is the most gentle way of dealing with the situation in the Holy Church. I know that the strategy that my teacher set before is to ease the situation and promote coexistence. But Miss Sophia knows my personality. I don't like to wait until the knife is on my neck before I fight back. Looking at the stunned Sophia, Wright finally had a smile on his face. Wright believed that the elves, who advocate life and nature, would definitely not cooperate with the Tower of Truth. But the magic potions and magic materials they produced have become the soil for the growth of poisonous thorns. Therefore, Wright must cut it with this knife. Facing Wright's determination, Sophia now doesn't even have the courage to protest. Although the Elf Empire still calls itself an empire, it actually lives worse than the dwarf tribe. After all, the dwarf sign casting craftsmanship is unique in the world, and they have a good relationship with humans, so they live a comfortable life in all aspects. Elves are different. They are delicate, and have extremely high requirements for the living environment, and their quality of life must also be excellent. Rather than saying that they are a declining noble, it is better to say that they are holding on for the sake of face. Moreover, in the black market, elf slaves have always been a hot selling product. Half-elves alone can be sold at a sky-high price. Even if all the remaining population of the elf empire were put into the black market, they would be sold out in 3 months. They can continue to exist because they are located deep in the jungle, which has a geographical advantage. Secondly, the church still has some face and has openly restricted the capture of elves so that some actions can only be carried out in secret. If she was facing the gentle Pope or other people in the Holy See, Sophia might argue with reason. But facing him, Saint Light, the holy evil, the turbid light that kills without blinking an eye, Sophia dared not make any rash moves. She was not afraid of death, but she was afraid of causing the entire elf race to fall into an irretrievable situation. The Holy Light Church did not even need to target them, but only needed to say that it would no longer investigate the elf slave incident, and the consequences would be disastrous. However, the current elves were simply unable to maintain a complete social form. If the magic potion business is lost, it won't be long before the elves will regress back to the barbaric era. Miss Sophia swallowed her saliva and asked tentatively, "Your Highness, is there no room for maneuver?" Wright looked up at her and suddenly laughed. "Why are you so nervous? I'm just talking about regulation, not a ban on sales. Not only will we not ban sales, we will also work with you in the name of the official." Such a 180-degree turn caught Sophia off guard. Really? Wright stood up and poured Sophia a full glass of milk. There is an old saying in my hometown, which goes, "It is better to loosen than to block." Magic potions are necessities of life, and it is definitely wrong to ban them. What we mean is to ensure that magic potions do not fall into the hands of illegal people. Now in the human world, many magicians with good character and clean records have to go to the black market and compete with those evil wizards for the right to buy magic potions. Over time, it is inevitable to go astray. In the future, the magic potions of the elves will be sold by the Holy See. Any registered magician with no bad record can come to buy these high quality and low priced magic potions. And in the whole process, our Holy See will not take a penny from the fees earned, and all will be returned to you, the elves. Moreover, we are happy to help you use this money to buy any items needed by the elves. I believe that with our Holy See's mediation, the elves will no longer be afraid of being slaughtered by unscrupulous profiteers. Right? Sophia was visibly excited after listening to Wright's vision for the future. It has to be said that each of the various proposals he made accurately hit the pain points of the elves. Although she was very unhappy with the other party's arrogant attitude, Sophia did not have the courage to resist at this moment. After all, it was such a good thing, and she had not had time to enjoy it yet, so how could she dare to resist? This is a matter of great importance. I have to go back and report to our queen. But we have felt the sincerity of the Holy See. I believe that your highness's proposal will definitely promote the further development of our relationship. So, you agree? Wright asked, while pointing to the full cup of milk in front of Sophia. Sophia looked at the tall cup with difficulty. The elves have a light diet, and milk that is a bit fishy for humans is even more difficult for elves to swallow. Sophia used her fingers to put her hair behind her ears and spoke with some embarrassment. "Mr. Wright, this cup. Miss Sophia, our cooperation is more about attitude. You have to understand that I will do this business for you, and it is also possible to contact other elves. As for the elves, I never worry whether they will cooperate with me, but I still want to see Miss Sophia's sincerity." Sophia panicked immediately after hearing this. She quickly picked up the milk, took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and then gulped it down. The milk that would normally make her frown when she smelled it was just drunk up like this. Sophia put the empty cup on the table and looked at Wright breathlessly. "Your Highness, this is sincere enough, right?" After saying that, she covered her mouth and tried not to spit it out. Wright stood up and came to her side, putting his hand on her back. With the infusion of holy light, Sophia's face gradually relaxed. "Remember your feeling today, it won you another big business." Sophia straightened up immediately after hearing this, staring at Wright. "Business? Is there a bigger business than this?" Wright laughed after hearing this. "Is the potion business considered big? How many magicians are there in the entire human world, and how many potions can be consumed every year? even if the potion business is put on the table and can be traded openly, and then the consumption will increase. But that's just the way it is. What I'm talking to you about is the affairs of the world, and it concerns all human beings, and even all living things. Wright said as he returned to his seat and cut bread by himself. The Holy See is going to set aside a large area of land in the southeastern region of the human frontier to establish a new united federation. We are going to turn that area into a food production base that can feed all humans. The Holy See will hire you elves to manage the production. I know that everyone in your elf family has a high talent for magic, but it does not mean that everyone has a talent to make magic potions or magic creations. But when it comes to cultivating plants and promoting production, I think there is no one in the world who is more suitable than you elves. Why waste such a good talent? If you can manage that piece of United Federation land well, the income will be several times, dozens of times, even hundreds of times that of your magic potion business. After all, it is a person, and it has to eat. After hearing about the granary plan, the elf Sophia was so excited that she trembled all over. If this thing can really succeed, then the status of the elves will change dramatically. Your Highness Wright, is what you said true? Is it true? Of course, the elves must cooperate. Cooperate. The elves will definitely cooperate with your plan. Just push forward your plan and leave any obstacles on the elves' side to me. Sophia became more and more excited and stood up from her seat again. To show my sincerity, I will drink another glass of milk. No, I will drink a bucket. That's not necessary, Your Highness Wright. Please give me another glass. There's not that much milk. You, think of a way. I can't think of a way. I'm not a cow. It took a lot of effort for Wright to drive this elf who was already excited to the point of being a little crazy out of the house. When he returned to the restaurant, the three little ones in the family had already come to eat breakfast. Lilith shook the wooden barrel of milk. Hey, isn't there still a lot of milk? Why don't you give it to others? We say in our hometown that what you eat replenishes what you have. I thought it would be better for you to drink more. Huh? Are you serious? You are a demon. Please stop being so superstitious, okay? Wright sat back in his seat, and Flando immediately said, My lord, it's not a good idea to hand over the granary of the human world to the elves. You are very far-sighted, but this is a necessity for the church to control the overall situation. Wright put the bread on 2 plates. I lied to her and said it was a granary, but that place is more of a reservoir. If there is a shortage of food in various places this year, the food here will be used for relief to stabilize the price of food. If there is a good harvest of food in various places this year, the food here can be used to make wine, or sell it or store it. It plays more of a bottom line role, but supervision is necessary. Otherwise, in a few years, the low-priced food of the elves will impact the entire human market, and countries will abandon self-cultivating farmers. At that time, the elves will be considered to have completely controlled the lifeline of mankind. Emily shuddered after hearing this. Fortunately, the elves didn't think of this trick back then. Otherwise, haha, the wheel of history rolls forward, and 1 or 2 things can't change the inevitable direction. Lilith gulped down the milk, and finally wiped her mouth. Let me guess, you actually want the Protestant to do this business? You guessed half right. Of course, to do business, we have to let the Chamber of Commerce on the commercial street do it. It sounds so nice. New business will create new jobs. In the end, won't it be the people from Shengang Town who fill it up? At that time, Shengang Town, Protestantism, and the Chamber of Commerce will be more closely united. Oh, by the way, there is also the empty shell of the temple. I knew that it would not be that simple for you to let the temple take the lead in establishing the White Magician Foundation. With the support of those 3 legs, you can turn the temple from a decoration into a monster with real power. Lilith put down the milk bucket in surprise. You are establishing another voice. Do you really want to replace Afra? Wright smiled mysteriously. You will know when the time comes. Hurry up and eat. We are going to pave the road today. There is a good show waiting for everyone at the party. Chapter 95. Walking the bright road, asking for monthly tickets. When it comes to physical work, we have to mention the pioneers of labor. the Synlights who are not afraid of hard work. After Wright's order, the Synlights gathered again. What surprised Wright was that last time, less than 200 people came, and half of them left halfway through the work. How come these people have surged to 400 people today? Wright looked at the tools he had prepared behind him, and realized that they were not enough. Did you call up all the people who didn't come yesterday? No, Pope. These brothers just joined us yesterday. Newly joined? Wright looked at a group of strong young men. Where did you get so many people? We went to the East Main Gate to collect them. The East Main Gate, is it the place where the sword is drawn? Yes. As expected of the Pope, he guessed it at once. After the introduction of the leading brother, Wright finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. It turned out that after this group of people worked yesterday, they were loved by the people, and felt extremely fulfilled. They actually ran back to the East Main Gate, and went to draw the sword again. Unexpectedly, two of them actually pulled out their swords. All of a sudden, things became interesting. Everyone has always believed that this is the reward for practicing with the Pope. But according to Wright's analysis, the two successful guys may have been just a little bit short of it before. After all, the guys who are willing to join the Synlight sect must also have a sincere heart. After the last training, the mind was strengthened, and finally the sword was pulled out. But in the final analysis, the sword is fake after all. So these two guys are unwilling to join the paladin recruitment camp, and arrogantly stated that they are the swords in the dark and the rulers of judgment that are free from everything. Paladin? No. Later, Taylor came in person and said that joining the paladin was the order left by your Pope. Only then were they willing to join obediently, but they would not give up their glorious Synlight. After all this, the name of the Synlight sect is known to everyone. Those young men who failed to draw the sword no longer felt frustrated, but turned around and joined the guilty light sect. In a short while, they gained a large number of new members. Pope, don't worry, these new members have passed our initiation ceremony. There is absolutely no problem. Although I don't really want to know, please explain in detail what your initiation ceremony is. As a result, the surrounding guilty lights immediately shouted in unison, truth or not. Let's drink. Do you want to play dare? Do you want to play what's in the zoo? Wright was a little speechless, but soon, the guilty lights dispelled his doubts. Pope, it's actually a sincere confession of joining the church. We will let the new member come on stage, let him tell about his past, let him show his heart, and his understanding, and yearning for the light of sin. If his words are sincere, and his beliefs are the same as ours, we will accept him as one of us. After hearing this, Flando next to him couldn't help but ask, isn't this a bit hasty? Lilith pondered for a moment, not necessarily, because the resonance of the soul actually exists. Many religions often experience such miracles during the missionary process. If they are all the same kind of people and firmly believe in something, then when they hold a special and solemn ceremony together, this sense of belief will condense and construct a special soul stance. Although the effect is single, it is only used to identify whether a person joins the sect in good faith, which is not uncommon. However, this can only happen when the group is pious and cohesive to a certain extent. Common among fanatics. They can even tell whether the other party is their companion just by looking at each other. Because fanaticism cannot be faked. Congratulations. Wright rubbed his cheeks and said, too many lice won't bite, too many debts won't worry. Forget it. Since we are here, let's get ready to work. Today's test is to help you pave the road. We are going to build a wide and bright road here. I have thought of a name. It will be called Guangming Avenue. When this road is built, everyone will walk on Guangming Avenue during the day, and Guangming Avenue will take you home at night. What a good meaning. What are you waiting for? Get started. Flando, you should just go to the art performance. Remember, there are enough eggs. If not, give money. The group of people split into two groups. Flando took people to the big stage to host the performance and distribute eggs, while Wright led more than 400 people to start repairing the road. It was called road repair, but it was more like repairing and widening. With the tools in their hands, it is difficult to pave the roads here like the holy city. After all, they don't have blocks of marble and bluestone slabs in their hands. But some things depend on attitude. A room can be small, but as long as it is neat and orderly, it will still be eye-catching and people will like it soon. Wright and his team also did similar work. They widened the road and filled the bumps and depressions. They cleared the weeds on the roadside and cleared away all the sewage and debris. It didn't take long for the whole road to be cleared. At first glance, although it was still a dirt road, it was unexpectedly flat and clean. If you walk on this road to work every morning and go home every night, you will definitely feel comfortable and at ease. This is the effect Wright wants to achieve. After all, the Holy Advent ceremony will be in a few days, and there is no big work to do. It seems that there is strength in numbers. Wright originally planned to complete the work in one day, but he didn't expect it to be completed in less than half a day. After all, their number is twice as much, and because of the two special cases, their enthusiasm is directly pulled to the maximum. He simply waved his hand and said, "Let's go. Let's build a new road. Go to the garbage dump yesterday." Okay. Everyone was enthusiastic and immediately started a new round of hard work. When we were transporting the garbage yesterday, we suffered a lot. The original road was roundabout and difficult to walk on, and transporting the garbage was more tiring than cleaning it. Everyone hated that road, and today we can finally get revenge for yesterday's one arrow. Wright gave an order, and everyone turned in place, and went straight to the original garbage dump. Just when everything was going smoothly, a man hurried over from the direction of the holy city. Oh no. Oh no. There's something wrong over there on the snack street. The man was startled by the neat Guangming Avenue while shouting, but he still ran to the venue quickly. Oh no. There's a quarrel over there on the snack street. Wright carried the shovel on his shoulder and narrowed his eyes slightly. It's a little earlier than I thought. This Grandit is a little anxious to do things. Sinful lights. Come on, let me take a look. Yes, Pope. The man who ran back cried on the big stage, saying that the people in Shengang town were bullied and there was a quarrel over there on the snack street. With his noise, everyone naturally lost the mood to watch the show. Flando was also stunned for a moment, but when she saw light waving at her from a distance, she immediately understood what was going on. It seems that this is also one of the arrangements made by the master. Family members, don't get excited. I will take you to see what happened. Flando's voice was regarded as a backbone for the residents of Shengang town present. Yes, this is one of the apprentice saints. With her, we are not afraid of being bullied. Naturally, Flando became the leader of these people, and led them to the holy city. Soon, they were shocked by the brand new bright avenue, which also made them more confident. Light led his men to hide in the crowd and joined Lilith. Hey, this is not another trick you came up with, is it? Facing Lilith's questioning, Light smiled. Some time ago, I was chatting with Grandit and asked him if all the merchants in the Chamber of Commerce abide by the law and discipline. Are they all on the same page with us? He smiled awkwardly for a long time and told me, indeed, there are still a few troublemakers on this street, relying on their identities that are not easy to talk about. They enjoy the benefits of this street, but they make trouble everywhere. Not only do they open shops to overcharge customers, but they also sell some inferior goods, which greatly damages the reputation of the commercial street. At first, Jonah had already warned them and directly closed 2 or 3 shops. But there are still a few who have not changed their evil intentions, but they do things more secretly. Moreover, these people do not obey Grandit, the president, and they sing the opposite tune from time to time. Wright stroked his chin. I thought at the time that I would pull out these black sheep, but on second thought, I kept them in case of emergency. Look, today I use them. Lilith suddenly realized, are you going to use them to establish your authority? At the same time, you can also sell favors to these people in Shengang town. Wow. You are the biggest profiteer. Wright spread his hands. People, this is how it is. Instead of giving them benefits, it is better to support them. Especially for these people in Shengang town. Sugar-coated bullets are indeed effective, and sincerity is also remarkable. But what do they really need? It is a pillar, a backer, someone who can effectively protect their interests, or an organization. Because they have always been at the bottom, and are used to being bullied. So if you want to completely win the hearts of the people in Shengang town, you have to see when others bully them. Whether you stand up or not, and whether it is useful to stand up. How can such a wealthy commercial street be full of good people? There must be profiteers. In fact, as long as it does not harm the world, it is acceptable to be a little cunning in business. But the few found today are the ratchet among the ratchet. The residents of Shengang Town are destined to make the contradiction between them, and these profiteers are reconcilable. In this case, there will be no reconciliation. Just drag them out for public trial, and then imprison those who should be imprisoned, and punish those who should be punished. While eliminating harm for the commercial street, it can also win people's hearts and ease conflicts. Why not do it? As they were talking, everyone had already arrived at the north gate. The people guarding the gate were the Holy New Army, and Wright had already greeted them. Seeing such a group of people coming in a mighty manner, there was no intention to stop them. Some people saw Wright in the crowd, and waved and saluted. Such a large group of people surrounded the noisy people in the snack street at once. The originally arrogant few, when they saw so many people coming from Shengang Town, they shrank their heads, and dared not say anything. Fortunately, there were some Holy New Army who came to the scene to maintain order, so there was no direct conflict. When the situation stabilized, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Grandit, appeared with his entourage and smiled. "Oh my. What's going on? You're just doing business. Why are you destroying other people's snack stands? Grandit, you're finally here. This is a snack street. You're stealing our business, right?" The heavily made up lady at the head of the group was so angry that her face flushed red, and she bared her teeth and claws as if she was going to eat someone. "These two. They stole the secret recipe from my store. They came here to make a fortune. You must kick them out, confiscate their business licenses, and make them pay me a large sum of money." Several shop owners around also followed suit, looking like they would never give up. Grandit's face was full of disgust. "Mrs. Odom, you opened a souvenir shop in the holy city. All you sell are wood carvings and ceramic products. Those two people used to work in your shop, but you fired them later, right? I remember you still owed them 3 months' salary at that time, and the Chamber of Commerce paid for it. Now they are selling homemade snacks at the stall. What does it have to do with the souvenirs sold in your shop? How did it count as stealing your secret recipe? Grandit, which side are you on? I'm the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Of course I won't take sides. Okay. I'm going to smash his stall today. Let's see who dares to stop me." "Stop." Flando immediately stepped forward and stood in front of the snack stand. "In the name of light, I don't allow you to do this. You. Where did you come from?" "My name is Saint Flando. I'm a novice saint, and also the leader of Protestantism." "Ha. It's so funny. I've lived in this holy city for most of my life. How come I didn't know there was a person like you among the novice saints? How dare you impersonate a saint? You really don't know how you died. Well, you guys, you actually dared to collude with the gangsters who impersonated the saint. I think you will all be beheaded today. Go to jail." After she made such a fuss, everyone in Shengang Town suddenly became panicked. Everyone talked about it, and their momentum weakened a lot. At this time, Wright walked out of the crowd. "Really? So powerful? Then look at me. Am I also a fake?" As soon as Wright appeared, the faces of those profiteers changed immediately. The arrogant look just now, along with the blood on their lips, disappeared completely in an instant. Saint Frando was the one I recommended to the Pope. She is already one of the novice saints, but some documents are going through the process and have not been announced yet. You just said she was fake, right? Mrs. Odom was so scared that she couldn't even stand. No, I didn't. I just didn't know. The commercial street is my property. Your shop also uses my house, right? Yes, your highness. You are so arrogant. A souvenir seller comes here to find a snack secret recipe. How come I don't know that your shop has been changed into a restaurant? No, I was confused for a moment. Are you just confused for a moment? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, Bright Dreams. Subscription request. Wright clapped his hands, and a team of Saint New army that had been arranged long ago rushed into the crowd and surrounded the several bosses who were causing trouble. They also brought several shop assistants and accountants, as well as a thick stack of documents. Wright took out one of the documents and shook it in front of the other party's horrified face. You are confused. There are too many things. Here are some evidences of you withholding money from your colleagues, cheating customers, evading taxes, and selling inferior goods as good ones. People work in your store, toiling and working without complaint, without cheating or playing tricks. They arrive at work early every day and work overtime every night. It's fine if you are not grateful, but you also find fault with everything, often find fault with everything, and either beat or scold them. The most infuriating thing is that you dare to withhold other people's wages. You deliberately withhold them for several months and just don't give them. When the workers ask you for money, you deliberately make things difficult for them, force them to resign, and then refuse to pay them. Are you a human being? I see that your store has a lot of turnover, but how much of the expenses are wages? Have you ever thought about having a chance to spend the money you make by making money against your conscience? Let me tell you, Shengang Town, we are all God's people. We are all illuminated by the light. Anyone who dares to bully them, they are just making things difficult for the Protestants. They are just making things difficult for me, right? Where the light shines. How can I allow you to act recklessly? Not only you, but all of you. None of you can escape. I was planning to deal with you after the holy day, but I didn't expect you to jump out today. You jumped out well. Arrest them all, send them to the Red Temple, and slowly interrogate them. No one is allowed to be released without my order. Yes, Your Highness. The new holy army attacked with thunder, and immediately arrested all these people, along with the witnesses and evidence. Wright elbowed Flando, and the latter finally reacted. Light forever. Justice will prevail. As she shouted, the people in the holy work town also began to shout. Light forever. Justice will prevail. Light forever. Justice will prevail. Wright also took advantage of this moment to jump onto a cart and opened his arms to face everyone. Everyone, please listen to me. At this moment, everyone present looked at Wright, and Lilith reached out to cover Emily's ears. Everyone, I have always had a bright dream. That is to make everyone live a happy life. Some people say that only those who are rich and powerful can be happy, and only those who are extremely wealthy can be happy. I think that this is not necessarily the case. In my opinion, happiness can be something very specific. Happiness can be drinking clean water every day. Happiness can be breathing fresh and sweet air every day. Happiness can be a wide and smooth road home, so that you can walk with your head held high without worrying about being tripped for no reason. Happiness is when people ask you where you live, you can proudly say it, because the place where it is located is clean and tidy. Although it is not a prime location, where every inch of land is worth a lot of money, it is a place where the elderly and children can have fun and play without worrying about safety. Happiness is small, but it is real. As long as we work a little harder, we can hold it in our hands. We work hard day after day, and fatigue and pain fill our entire lives. But this does not mean that we do not deserve our own happiness. Protestant doctrine tells us, light shines on everyone. We are all the darlings of light. You are a hotel waiter, she is a clothing store employee, and he is setting up a stall in the snack street. Everyone has a bright future. Join the Holy Light Protestant Church. Pursue your bright future. Holy Light Protestant Church, a sect dedicated to bringing you happiness. We, the holy workers, have our own sect. Join now. You can still enjoy the special offer of £2 of eggs per person. After the holy day, it will be gone. The people in the holy work town at the scene suddenly burst into unprecedented enthusiasm, and all began to consult Flander about joining the Protestant church. Wright found an opportunity to jump down, and found Grandit, who was waiting on the side. Boss, Grandit, you did a great job just now. Working for the boss, and getting rid of the bad apples is what I should do. Grandit came forward and said, I'm so terrified that you, the boss, have done this evil thing. It's okay. As the boss, I should play the good cop. You are the president of the Chamber of Commerce. if they know that the Chamber of Commerce is investigating them behind their backs. Even if the people arrested deserve it, everyone will have resistance, which will be detrimental to your future work. I have already ordered that you go to the Red Church to beg for mercy. They have already sentenced you according to the most serious crime. I have left you a lot of room for operation. This wave will harvest a lot of favors for me. I heard that there are several noble confidants of various holy vassal states. It is just right to lay the foundation for our Chamber of Commerce to further expand the trade route. Business is mainly about circulation. Whether it is goods, funds, or customers, they are all in circulation. Only when they circulate can business survive. The sitting merchants in the holy city have come to an end. Next, we must look to the world. Speaking of which, I have a few big deals. Let's talk about the Master Wright officially takes office. Grandad was very excited. Boss, the big business you are talking about, how big is it? There are several more. Wait, a bright future is waiting for you. Boss, you said that I want to join the Protestant church. If you want to get closer to the stall owners and the guys, joining the Protestant church is also a good choice. Wright looked at the residents of Shengang town who were eager to join the Protestant church, and his smile gradually faded. He never believed that whoever is in the dark will take the initiative. Since the enemy is in the dark, then illuminate the surroundings little by little, and compress their living space. When they can't tolerate it, have nowhere to stay, and have no way to escape, they have to jump out. Fortify the walls and clear the fields. This is the best and most effective way for Wright to deal with this gang. Shengang town used to be a place where filth and dirt were hidden, and the situation was chaotic. If you want to catch their tail here, you have to pay a huge price. Then, on the contrary, turn Shengang town into your own territory. Light up with the headlights. Let everyone become your own light. All the hidden corners will be illuminated. Shine it clean and clear. Let these bastards have nowhere to hide here, and snakes, insects, rats and ants can only flee. Right. At this moment, Lilith came over. The time has come. The Pope's palace is waiting for you to hold a meeting with the Holy Tax Review Committee. It seems that we have to wait a while before we can finish here. It's okay. I'll be responsible for protecting the two of them here. Wright nodded slightly. Thank you for your hard work during this period. Alas, who asked me to sell it to you? You won't suffer any loss, my Miss Lilith. Wright rubbed Lilith's head and turned to the direction of the Pope's palace. 10,000 words a day. Please subscribe. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Yesterday, a book friend said it right. If you post it together, you don't have to worry about the chapter division. I will try my best to post 10,000 words every day in the future, at 9:30. 3 chapters in a row. Chapter 97, a big gift for you. The envoys who came to attend the meeting were actually a little nervous. They were all well informed, and they had learned more or less about Vanessa's affairs from other channels. After such a terrible thing happened, these people had complicated thoughts in their minds. Some wanted to see the Holy Light Church make a fool of themselves. After all, their former saint, the eldest princess of the first holy vassal state, actually assassinated the Pope. Even if there were remnants of truth instructing, it would be a matter that would damage the reputation of the Holy See. Some envoys were not so optimistic. The church was not a soft persimmon. Since this incident happened, the church would definitely make up for it from other things. And these people themselves might encounter unexpected disasters. More envoys were confused. They had no opinions and just came to complete the mission. Originally, this kind of errand that happened once every 3 years was a good job. They came to the holy city to travel at public expense, with food and accommodation provided, and they could also get some scarce things to make a small profit when they left. But since the bloody holy day 3 years ago, envoys suddenly became a high-risk profession. Moreover, it is said that the Pope is ill, and the one who is now in charge of the affairs of the Holy See is the holy evil who chopped off several envoys in front of the goddess 3 years ago. Creak. The door of the conference room suddenly opened, and Wright walked in with his head held high, and Taylor followed closely behind him. With the arrival of the two, the envoys of the various countries' delegations who were still whispering suddenly became quiet. Crash. I don't know which envoy took the lead and stood up, and the other envoys stood up and saluted as if they had just woken up from a dream. Greetings, Your Highness. Sit down, don't be nervous. Wright sat at the main seat at the conference table, and Taylor sat in the first seat on his left. Everyone knew that the seat should have been occupied by the envoy of the First Empire, that is, Vanessa. The envoys present did not understand this arrangement and did not dare to have any objections. Before the meeting begins, I have prepared some small gifts for everyone present. Someone, bring them up. Wright clapped his hands, and a group of nuns came in with brocade bags on silver trays and placed them in front of the envoys. Looking at the smiling Wright, and then at the beautifully wrapped gifts in front of them, they suddenly had an illusion that this man might not be so scary. The atmosphere in the conference room eased a little. Wright reached out and took the gift in front of Taylor, opened the bag, and explained to everyone. Here, everyone, look at the first item. It's a pass to the Papal Palace. I issued it myself. If you want to come to the Papal Palace, just show your pass and the guards won't stop you. The second item is a map of the Papal Palace. It clearly and in detail marks the Pope's living room, the dining room, where the Pope eats, the Pope's royal kitchen, the 3 offices where the Pope usually works, and the probability of his appearance. The envoys felt something was wrong at this time, but they couldn't put their finger on it. Then Wright took out the third item. This is the patrol route map and rotation schedule of the Papal Palace guards. When this thing came out, the envoys present all changed their faces and didn't know what to say for a while. Your Highness, what are you doing? And this? Wright took out a dagger from his bag and nailed it to the marble table with a bang. The dagger's blade pierced into it, and the tail was still vibrating back and forth. A sharp dagger, whether you cut the throat or pierce the heart, it is guaranteed to kill with one strike. It is really the best choice for home travel, murder, and arson. These are all given to everyone for free today. Are you happy? The conference room suddenly fell into a dead silence. The atmosphere fell to the bottom. Only the dagger was still vibrating. The suffocating silence made the envoys breathless. The 4 things in front of them were not gifts at all. They were simply death warrants. Some timid envoys only felt difficulty breathing, and other envoys tried to look away and try not to look at these gifts, and some even closed their eyes. One of the more senior envoys tried to force out a smile. Your Highness, what's the meaning of giving us these? Taylor sneered. What's the meaning? Isn't it obvious? Wright moved the dagger on the table. I heard that you envoys came to the Holy City for a purpose. What is the purpose? That is to assassinate the Pope. So, in the spirit of hospitality, we should be anxious about others' needs and think about what others think. We have prepared the 4-piece assassination kit for you. Just ask if you are considerate. Considerate? To consider it. The whole meeting room was in an uproar in an instant. All the envoys were frantically explaining that they had nothing to do with this matter, for fear that they would be a half-beat slower than others and end up being the scapegoat. Seeing everyone speaking enthusiastically, Taylor suddenly took out a circulation board and stood up with a bang. Your Highness Wright, I think this matter is the problem of the First Empire itself. They have cut themselves off from the holy light and their faith. This is an act of treason and rebellion. I'm willing to bear witness to this and sign my name to prove that the assassination of Vanessa, the special envoy of the First Empire, was planned by the First Empire itself. Oh, really? It's really gratifying. It seems that this matter has nothing to do with your country. Wright gave a thumbs up. Sign your name and sit down. The special envoys present were dumbfounded. They were just wondering why His Highness Wright would let His Highness Taylor accompany him to the meeting. Oh, so it was just to perform such a clumsy double act? It was too clumsy. But clumsy as it was indeed a fatal blow. Although Wright's meaning was not made clear, those who could come to be the special envoy must not be fools. There are only 2 choices on this table today. Either accept the gift, or sign your name. This is actually forcing everyone to stand in line, but it is not said clearly, because it's very simple. The envoys here don't have complete rights and missions. They are only here to discuss the issue of the increase and decrease of the holy tax. They have no qualifications or rights to choose to stand on the side of the First Empire or the Holy See for the country. But the poison of Wright's trick is that he didn't let these envoys do anything beyond their abilities. I don't need you to choose sides. I just need you to testify to me that it was the First Empire represented by Vanessa that attacked the Pope's palace. So many envoys testified and signed together. At that time, even if the First Empire wanted to default on its debt and prepare to cut ties with Vanessa, it would probably be useless. Use these people to bind Vanessa and the First Empire tightly, leaving no room for the other party to make a detour. And if they do this, it will be a stab in the First Empire. With blood on their hands, it is not standing in line, but it is better than standing in line. This is the pledge of all people today. The circulation board turned around, and everyone on it signed. Everyone lowered their heads, and the atmosphere was a little gloomy. Wright handed the circulation board to Taylor, and showed a sunny smile. Now that we are all family, let's talk about something happy, shall we? I'm going to exempt all the holy taxes for the next 3 years. As soon as this was said, almost everyone looked at Wright in horror, and they couldn't believe their ears. The entire holy tax for the next 3 years was an astronomical figure, and he just said no. However, soon, everyone calmed down again. These people were all smart people, and they knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch. Since Wright exempted such a large sum of money, he would definitely make up for it from other places. He was not a person who would suffer a loss. But, hearing Wright say this, everyone immediately showed an expression of as expected. I ask everyone to help me lobby this plan to your royal family after returning. Wright clapped his hands, and the group of nuns just now came in with silver trays. Some envoys couldn't help but get nervous, but fortunately there were only books on the tray this time. Although they didn't know what the plan meant, considering the 3-year tax exemption, everyone present still read it carefully from beginning to end. After reading it, they knew why the church was qualified to not pay the holy tax for 3 years. Simply put, if this thing is successful, the benefits will be so great that the holy tax is not worth mentioning. The most important thing is that there are almost no victims in this plan, and everyone can make a lot of money from it. In addition, with the exemption of the holy tax, the finances in the next 3 years will be greatly improved. Send the elves food to the barbarian tribes, then sell the barbarian, or to the dwarves, and then sell the dwarves iron artifacts to the human countries. At the same time, the elves food can also be used as a reserve for disaster relief in various countries. The most important thing is that these developed trade routes can also allow private chambers of commerce to borrow light. This plan will greatly promote the commercial development of the entire continent. The senior envoy clapped his hands repeatedly. He started as a merchant in his early years, and later married a down-and-out nobleman, successfully joined the upper echelons of the kingdom, and served as the Minister of Finance for a long time. This is after he retired, and was idle at home, so he took on the job of envoy to travel around. He is very optimistic about the bright future depicted in this plan. But Your Highness Light, the Magician Foundation and the control of magic products you mentioned, I'm afraid it's not that easy to do, right? Light smiled slightly, as the saying goes, what is easy to achieve is not a dream. What is easily given up is not a promise. Only when everyone works together can we create a bright future. After hearing these empty words, everyone present looked embarrassed. Wright spread his hands and said generously, you don't have to be embarrassed. This activity is voluntary. You can choose not to participate. But don't tell me about tax exemption. I won't threaten you. We will pay as usual. In addition, your country will not be taken into consideration in the above business cooperation. For example, the ironware made by the dwarves, the magic scrolls and potions produced by the elves, and the amulet, or of the barbarians. You can negotiate on your own. But I have told them, they either do business with the Holy See or with you. So I think they will not sell to you. Of course, you can also buy and sell from other countries, but as long as we find out, the country involved in this matter will be kicked out of this circle. Oh, 3 years. Maybe it won't take 3 years. The national strength of this non-participating country is compared with the national strength of the countries that participated in this plan. That, right. But don't worry, if there is a conflict between member states and non-member states at that time, the Holy City will not favor member states. We will treat everyone equally, no matter what. All those who still had little thoughts on the scene were dumbfounded at once. What's the point? You're doomed. If you can't catch this express train, your country will face an army wearing armor made by dwarves, holding fine weapons, and carrying a lot of magic scrolls and magic potions made by elves. They still have endless military rations. They can even equip some barbarian war totems. By that time, don't say whether you are a big or small country. Manpower and land area are no longer the most important factors affecting victory or defeat, but money is. Either get on the train, or wait to be eaten by other fat and strong countries. This plan is more vicious than the previous two choices, because it has no room for choice. When everyone looked at the young man sitting at the main table of the conference, they were full of awe. Maybe it was because of his glorious deeds of killing people without blinking an eye before, but now they are really scared. In the hands of his teacher, Pope Paul III, the church seemed like a kind old man. But in Wright's hands, the Holy Light Church suddenly became a cold and ruthless power machine. He can play the cards in his hand in a way that maximizes benefits, leaving no room for the enemy. You can take these documents back to show your royal family, but there is one thing you need to understand. Wright raised the plan in his hand and said, this plan has a date, which means that countries cannot keep considering it, and will not wait for it after the expiration date. In addition, the first batch of pilot countries has limited places. If you sign up late, you can only wait for the next batch. Wait. We will participate. We will participate too, Your Highness. Please make sure to save a place for us. We will participate. No need to ask about the royal family. I'm a member of the royal family. Wright waved his hand. Registration will start after the holy day. This matter is of great importance, so it is better for everyone to make more preparations. After all, it is not completely without danger. However, if you have difficulties, you can ask for help from the local branch of the Holy See. After the holy day, we will strengthen the construction of the branch. One of the envoys trembled all over. You mean, to increase the troops? You don't have to increase it, but then you will have to deal with unlicensed magicians causing unrest, caravan robbery and other things by yourselves. Are you interested? The envoys shook their heads frantically. Very good. Today's meeting is over. Everyone please leave. Wright patted Taylor on the shoulder and said, ask the dwarf delegation to come in. Chapter 98 Seeking welfare for the dwarf family, asking for monthly ticket. The envoys of various countries wanted to be polite to Wright and try to win the first wave of trade route member countries. But under Taylor's tough attitude, everyone had to leave unwillingly. The triennial poor meeting, that was supposed to last until the eve of the holy day of Advent, was resolved in less than half an hour. The next person to enter was a sturdy dwarf with a big beard. The other party came in aggressively, as if he had eaten gunpowder, and his whole body was full of alcohol and anger. As soon as he entered the door, he quickly walked to Wright and slapped the table. Where is the masterpiece of our dwarf master? Where is the great armor? Where did you put it? Wright glanced at the other party. Why does it smell like low quality alcohol? Haven't I told you many times? Drink less barley wine. That kind of stuff can't even be called wine. It's at most mash. Doesn't the city supply top quality dark beer and white wine? That's not enough to drink. Bullshit. You bastards secretly packed up all the drinks we supplied. If you are greedy, just drink the barley wine you brought. Don't think I don't know. You are a VIP after all. Why do you do such a shameful thing? No, for you dwarves, face is far less important than fine wine. But the only exception is the group of long ears. You dwarves can't stand the ridicule of the elves the most. Are you afraid that the elves will know about this sneaky thing? You. Don't change the subject. I'm talking about our master's work, the armor. Let's not talk about the armor for now. I want to talk to you about the supply of drinks. Wright slapped a menu in front of the dwarf representative. I know you dwarves don't like to read things with a lot of words, so I simplified it for you. Come on. Get on the board. With a click, the door of the conference hall was pushed open, and then a group of people came in pushing various boxes. The most eye-catching one was a huge whiteboard. Wright and Taylor exchanged glances, and the two stood up at the same time, standing in front of the whiteboard, one on the left, and one on the right. Today, the benefit we bring to the family is the precious fruit honey wine brewed by the elves. Taylor said confidently, yes. This fruit honey wine is made of carefully selected ingredients and exquisite craftsmanship. It is also supervised by the senior potion master of the elves. It is the best wine. Absolutely the best. So what is the market price of such a wine? How much? 1988 gold marks. Wow. Too expensive. Wright and Taylor's singing in unison made the dwarf representative look confused. But Wright ignored him and continued to explain passionately. But today, we just want to seek benefits for our families. After sleepless nights of negotiations with the representatives of the Elf Empire, we finally got the price down. 1,988. I'll sell it to you. 1 bottle. 2 bottles. 3 bottles. 4 bottles. 5 bottles. Wow. For the price of 1 bottle, I can actually sell 5 bottles now. Who said 5 bottles? Who said only 5 bottles? In addition to these 5 bottles of fine fruit honey wine, I will also give you a bundle of 6 bottles of top quality white wine. Wow. Just give it to you in a bundle. 2 bundles. 2 bundles. Wright raised his hand. Not only that, I will also give you a whole barrel of yak milk wine produced by the authentic barbarian tribe. Plus 1, 2, and 3 large boxes of fruit flavored wheat beer. I just want to ask you if it's worth it. Wow. What a good deal. 1988 golden mark. I can buy so much wine. 1988 golden mark. Who told you to sell 1988 golden mark? Hearing this, the dwarf representative suddenly became nervous. Hey, this is what you just said. Wright picked up the charcoal pencil, wrote the 4 numbers 1988 on the whiteboard, and then slapped the whiteboard. These wines. It's 1988. Silver Delling. It's actually Silver Delling. The dwarf representative almost shouted this sentence with Taylor. Wright pointed at him with a smile on his face. Are you tempted? Are you tempted? Let me tell you, it's not over yet. Such a small benefit. How can I have the nerve to show it to my family? I have to make another important decision. Taylor next to him immediately grabbed Wright. Think twice. It can't be cheaper. Get out of the way. Whoever stops me from giving my family a benefit is my enemy. I'm in charge. Today, I'm going to lower this price again. 1 silver Delling. The dwarf representative, who had just become excited, froze in place. He had just hit the price so hard. Why did he fake it in the end? Then he saw that Wright directly erased the number 1 in front of 988 silver dram. Take home a gift package of wine and drinks. Family members, what are you waiting for? Start ordering now. Come on. 3, 2, 1. Click on the link. Limited quantity. While stocks last. Give it to me. I'll buy it. I want to buy it. I'll buy it all. The dwarf representative almost threw himself into the pile of fine wine in front of him, but he soon reacted. Are you bribing me? You're selling so many bottles so cheaply, you're going to lose a lot of money? Isn't this a disguised bribe? You're wrong. We are dedicated to the welfare of our families, but if we lose money ourselves, even if our families get the welfare, they won't feel good. We promise that we just knock down the inflated prices in the market. The reason why we dare to sell so cheaply is because we have the advantages of channels and sources of goods. Taylor. The reverse side. Taylor immediately reached out and turned over the huge white panel. The dwarf representative then discovered that there was a very detailed analysis chart drawn on the back. Why is it so expensive for the dwarves to buy the elves' wine? Is it really because those pointy-eared people deliberately make things difficult for our dwarven families? In fact, it is not the case. As we all know, brewing wine requires a lot of food. Whether it is the elves or the humans, the premise of brewing wine is that there will be a lot of surplus food. This may not be possible for the humans, but the elves can easily achieve it. Therefore, the elves are a stable supplier of high-end fine wines. In the human empire, some smugglers will take great risks to go to the elves' settlement, to buy the high-quality wines they produce, and then go through many hardships and exploitation, crossing most of the continent, before they can be transported to the dwarfs' territory. Because the dwarves have a very high demand for the total amount of wine, things are rare and expensive, and the price of fine wines has been rising all the way, even to the point where there is no market for them. However, in the new plan launched by our Holy See, we will establish a trading port with the official elf empire, and entrust the elves to manage the farms and orchards. Whether it is food or wine, they will no longer be scarce materials at that time. Moreover, the goods will be escorted by the official business convoy of the Holy Church, and the transportation costs and appreciation costs will be greatly reduced. The fine fruit honey wine that you may not be able to buy with 1 or 2,000 gold marks will be available to you for only a few silvered rang in the future, because it is only this price, and there is no limit on the supply. While saying this, Wright smiled and approached the dwarf representative. So, now, are you in the mood to listen to me about our business plan? There will be another chapter later. Chapter 99, on the eve of the big cleanup, subscription request. Taylor was speechless as he watched the dwarf representative push the cart away happily. You agreed so soon. How difficult can it be? Boss, the plan you mentioned hasn't been implemented yet. Taylor couldn't help swallowing his saliva. When you talked to the representatives of the Holy Land, you looked like everything was done, and all that was left was for them to nod. Why did you also look like you were the only one left when you talked to the dwarf representative just now? To be honest, I had the same attitude with the elf representative this morning. I see, you are trying to get something for nothing. Taylor was impressed again. Brother, you dare to do this? If there is a problem in any link, all the promises will become lies. You really dare to do it? Wealth and honor are sought in danger. If you do a good job of resource integration, it will become easy to make money. Besides, how can you make money without taking some risks? Wright looked at the dwarf's back disappearing at the corner of the road and smiled with satisfaction. Anyway, the armor thing went smoothly. After the interests were aligned, they talked about this kind of thing again, just like a family. Right directly through all the things on the First Empire. After hearing this, the dwarf representative immediately said that all this was the tragic result of the First Empire's bad behavior. The dwarves will never forget this huge insult. Both parties promised that after the Holy See announced a divine punishment war against the First Empire after the Holy See ceremony, the dwarves would declare war together at the first time. The dwarf representative also said that he would use the magic scroll to warn his compatriots when he returned, asking them to prohibit trading with all the merchants and caravans of the First Empire. The dwarves expressed strong support for the Magician Foundation project proposed by Wright. In the future, all magician equipment can be customized from them or purchased in large quantities. The meeting ended quietly with the tasting of fine wine and the scolding of the First Empire. Both the host and the guests were happy. So far, Wright's plan, which was like a loft in the air, has really become possible. When the whole plan is in operation, the living space of the remnants of the Tower of Truth in the entire human world will be greatly compressed. At that time, they may gather together and fight to the death. Taylor, remember to go to the barracks more recently and let everyone practice. I believe that it won't be long before you will have a place to use your skills. Okay, I'll listen to you, big brother. I should go back and rest every day. Wright stretched his waist, bid farewell to Taylor, and turned to walk home. Although he had a black carriage from the Knights of Punishment, he had to give it up in style for the convenience of the 3 beautiful girls. He walked and stopped along the way, and often met clergy who greeted him. There were still about 5 days before the Holy Advent ceremony, and the whole holy city was visibly tense. Especially the clergy, they were all walking briskly and busy. Seeing this scene, Wright felt a lot of emotion in his heart. So many days had passed since he returned to the holy city. Although thanks to his efforts, the holy city looks peaceful and there is no sign of impending disaster. But only he knows what kind of undercurrents are surging under the calm lake. The Tower of Truth has been seriously injured, but the remaining poison has not been eliminated. The dark race is ready to move, and their purpose is still unclear. Although the Protestant Church has been taken in, we still cannot let our guard down. On the contrary, those heretical sects have almost been cut off from their roots because of this severe crackdown. Are you back? Before he knew it, Wright returned to the door of his house. Lilith saw him at a glance and waved to stop him. Otherwise, he would have walked past with such a heavy heart. What are you thinking about? You look absent-minded. I'm thinking about what those guys will do when they are forced into this situation. You're just too thoughtful. Isn't this what the enemy should think about? Ha, that's right. You came back early today. Lilith shook her head. Yeah, haven't we accepted a lot of new believers? There are a lot of jobs that everyone is scrambling to do. So today, we finished early. Guess what we are doing? What? We are cleaning the kitchen for you. Wright's heart was suddenly pulled. No need. It's all cleaned up. It's over. It's over. Wright hurriedly pushed the door and entered the manor, trotting into his kitchen, scaring Flando and Emily who were cleaning up the debris next to him. However, what Wright didn't expect was that the kitchen was cleaned very neatly and even redecorated. Newly stacked stoves, brand new tableau, and specially made kitchen knives. Most importantly, his bottles and jars were also well placed. This is. You've been working so hard lately, so we are going to give you a surprise. Lilith lay on the kitchen window and looked at him with a smile. You don't have to look at me so gratefully. In fact, these things were not made by us. We are so clumsy that we can't do these. I found the president of your Chamber of Commerce 2 days ago and asked him to help prepare them. It happened that you were not at home today, so I asked them to come over and make it. Do you like it? Well, in the words of your hometown, it's called borrowing flowers to offer to Buddha, right? Wright took a deep breath. Thank you. Among the many trivial matters, there is finally one thing that makes me happy. Come, beautiful girls. Today I will cook for you and make some delicious dishes from my hometown. You are in for a treat. Great. Another delicious food. My lord, do you need my help? No need at all. Go to the restaurant and sit in a row. We will have a big meal. Wright drove the 3 girls to the restaurant and started working in the kitchen alone. Too many things have happened recently, making Wright tense all the time. Wright enjoyed the feeling of being able to relax suddenly. He worked skillfully in the kitchen and soon served several delicious dishes. After pouring some appetizers, the 4 of them started today's dinner. Just when everyone was enjoying the meal, a guest came to the courtyard. Wright, are you home? Archbishop Delman. Wright put down his cutlery and walked out the door, opening the ban on the manor. Delman walked in with a thick stack of papers, shaking it. Your last application has been approved. Millimeters. It smells so good. Are you eating? Yes, it's approved. Let me see. Wright began to flip through the approval documents, and in the blink of an eye, the cardinal bypassed him and went to the dining room. Looking at the table full of delicious food, he seemed to be thinking about something. Wright happily returned to the restaurant with the approval document. Thank you for your help, Archbishop Delman. Oh, I haven't eaten. I haven't had dinner. I didn't ask. Okay. Since you are so polite, I will stay here for a while. After that, he pulled out a chair and sat down, then turned back to look at Wright. Please get me a set of tableau. Thank you. Wright was speechless, but he had to go to the kitchen to get another set of tableau, and then sat back in his seat. Emily was the most curious, and immediately looked at the document. What is this? You two take a look. Wright handed the document directly to Flando and Emily, who screamed in fear after reading it. Holy New City. Emily shook the document in her hand. You want to transform Shengang Town into Holy New City? You want to build another holy city? It's a secondary capital. Forget it. You won't understand, even if I tell you. Wright reached out and took the approval document back. You have to understand that the holy city is a little bloated now. No, to be frank, it is very bloated. And as the capital of the Holy Light Church, it has many symbolic meanings. Therefore, it is almost impossible to expect the holy city to metabolize itself. It can only continue to be ancient and sacred, and gradually become a living fossil. But in this case, there will be many disadvantages. Whether in terms of maintenance or structural rigidity, a holy city that has stopped developing cannot fully fulfill the task of the Holy Light Church to move forward. Apart from anything else, do you know how much money the church paid me for the land of the commercial street? Do you know that the commercial street has reached its end in a year and a half? Since then, Grandad and others have been applying for new commercial land. Why didn't the Holy Light Church approve it? Is it because they don't want to make more money? Is it because they feel that too much money is a waste of money? Neither. It's just that there is no land. Not only is the land in the holy city very expensive, but after so many years, even a random brick on the city wall has become an antique, and it even has a story behind it. The resistance to demolishing them and building new ones is surprisingly great. So, I suggested to the church, instead of continuing to fight the holy city, it is better to build a secondary capital to take on these unnecessary tasks. The holy city can still be beautiful on its own, and the remaining functionality will be borne by the secondary capital. Emily suddenly realized, and Lilith rolled her eyes. Why do you believe in everything? He just wants to consolidate his own territory. To put it bluntly, Shengang Town is basically an illegal building. Without any formal permission, it is possible to be razed by the church at any time. But now that the approval has come down, the entire Shengang Town has suddenly become a legal place of residence. Shenks and Sheng. Does the new city need to be equipped with everything? How many key positions will be involved? Compared to adding icing on the cake to a finished painting like the Holy City, he prefers to paint again on a blank sheet of paper without shackles. Including the big cakes he painted for others, they can all be realized on this blank sheet of paper. Moreover, by doing this, the people in Shengang Town have suddenly transformed from illegal stranded populations to native residents of the new city. Just imagine the height of this status elevation. I guess by then, the people in Shengang Town will want to worship Wright directly. Wright waved his hand. I'm really not interested in faith or anything like that. This enthusiasm will all be fed back to the God of Light. In this way, our plan to indirectly control the God of Light through believers has been accomplished. Whether these people are going to use the clone of the evil god or not, they must first obtain our consent. Flander was the most excited among all the people, because her apprentice Saint Ren's order was also mixed in the thick stack of papers. Although it was casually sandwiched there, Flando didn't care at all, and her mind was almost blank at the moment. Although the news had been known for a long time, when the dream came true, people still couldn't help crying. Emily comforted the crying Flando, and Lilith looked at the Red Cardinal who was tasting the delicious food. Mr. Archbishop, I didn't expect you would agree with Wright's unorthodox behavior. The division of faith will weaken the goddess of holy light. Archbishop Delman spread his hands and said, we discussed it, and found that building a secondary capital is not a blasphemous act. After all, the fact that the holy city is too rigid is not something that happened in the past 2 years. We also wanted to do a lot of things back then, but we had to give up, because of various old reasons. But we didn't think of such a way at the time, let alone such courage. As for Protestantism, Delman smiled and looked at Flando. After the holy day of Advent, Protestantism will eventually submit to the power of the goddess of holy light. The holy new city is still under the control of the Holy See. It's a win-win situation. Moreover, if Wright can go somewhere else to make some trouble, why not build a secondary capital? Lilith nodded repeatedly. I understand. The last sentence is the key point. Wright slapped the document on the table. Tomorrow, we can make this document public. The Holy New Army can legitimately carry out a second expansion and station in Shengang Town. Then, we can gather local residents to jointly build large projects. In this way, we can continue to strengthen cohesion and trust, and completely establish the God of Light. At the same time, all the last remnants entrenched in Shengang Town will be wiped out. I want to see how these people can hide after losing this shelter. As he spoke, a ball of light condensed in Wright's hand, and then transformed into a holy crow. After a whisper from Wright, he headed towards the headquarters of the Holy New Army. He then summoned the light and blood double rings, condensed a blood-colored bat, released it into the night, and flew towards the tavern he had visited last time. When the groundbreaking ceremony of the Holy New City begins, it's time for the Black and White forces to encircle and suppress the enemy. Wright's eyes were filled with murderous intent. In this cleanup, no one can escape. Archbishop Delman also clenched his fists excitedly. Great. Let us in the Red Church do our part. That's inevitable. But Archbishop, there's one more thing I have to trouble you with. You say, it's my duty. I guess the goddess of holy light will nag about this again. But I have the holy shackles on me, and she can't contact me, so she'll probably take it out on you. Delman's face changed drastically. Wait. Didn't you say that you had informed the goddess about this matter? You said that the goddess nodded, so I stepped up to do it. I lied to you. You even swore in the name of the goddess. I have the holy shackles. Swearing is useless. You. In short, thank you for your hard work. I don't know how to deal with it. I suggest you ask my teacher for advice. 1. Continue. Chapter 100 Attack from a Dream. Because we have to go to Shengang Town early tomorrow morning, everyone went back to their rooms early after dinner to prepare for bed. Not long after Wright lay on the bed, he fell asleep. However, soon, Wright's brows slightly frowned in his sleep, and his expression became strange. Bang! Lilith pushed open the door, rushed to the bed, pinched Wright's face, and looked left and right. What's wrong? The sound of the door opening attracted the attention of the other two women, who rushed into the room in their pajamas. Lilith, you can't help it? But at least don't stay in this room. What are you talking about? Wright was attacked. What? Emily and Flander were panicked and quickly climbed onto the bed. At this moment, Wright frowned, and no matter how Lilith called him, he just didn't open his eyes. What happened? How was he attacked? Why didn't we notice it? Where is the murderer? Lilith shook her head. It's normal that you can't feel it. The other party attacked from a dream. Dream? Emily and Flander looked at each other and looked at Lilith in disbelief. Is it the dream we have when we sleep on weekdays? Yes. You know, I'm a succubus. The most common method of succubus is to control other people's dreams and seize their life energy from them. There are many people like us who can come and go freely in dreams. Nightmares, sleep demons, elf dragons, sleepyheads. Lilith looked at Wright's cheek anxiously. Just now I was in my room, and I felt a powerful force surging from the cracks of dreams. I realized that something big was wrong, so I rushed over to check it out, but I didn't expect that I was still a step late. Emily covered her mouth in surprise. Impossible, even if it was an attack from a dream. With Wright's mental strength, it is impossible for him to be hit so easily. Lilith placed one hand on Wright's forehead, and then her expression became strange. It was indeed a powerful mental force that bypassed the mental barrier he set for himself, and dragged him into the dream woven by the other party. Damn it, it was because of the holy shackle. Emily was very clear about this. Holy shackle? Isn't that a seal that blocks the communication channel between him and the gods? Lilith's face looked a little ugly. To be more precise, the holy shackle has been occupying that communication channel, making it impossible for believers and gods to use it. But the holy shackle is a product of the Tower of Truth after all. This time they probably borrowed the channel occupied by the holy shackle, bypassed Wright's mental barrier, and reached the depths of self-consciousness. Although Emily didn't quite understand, she realized that the situation was not good. Then, what should we do? He won't be in danger of his life, right? Lilith shook her head. This is the most troublesome thing. With Wright's mental power, he won't be in any danger. But if the enemy has made preparations in advance and pulled him into a carefully compiled dream world, then he is likely to be trapped in it and unable to escape. This is not a seal, but it is more difficult to remove than a seal. Flander was stunned for a moment and immediately understood the enemy's intention. How despicable. They felt that if the master continued, they could not continue to hide, so they launched the attack. If they waited until the day before the holy coming to use this trick, it is very likely that the master will be trapped and unable to stop what they did that day. Emily looked at Wright's changing expression and felt a little nervous. Well, what should we do now? Lilith, don't you also know how to enter dreams? Then quickly pull him out. Of course I've tried it. The other party seemed to be on guard against me. While attacking Light, they set up a seal to defend against demons. Damn. If I hadn't been sealed with just these people, Emily grabbed Lilith's hand. Then you teach me. I'll learn that dream entering technique. Am I not a full service mage? I'm proficient in all spells. Let me get him out. Lilith placed Light's head on the pillow. For now, Light has been pulled into the dream carefully woven by the enemy. With his ability, he may not be trapped in it. The dream entering technique. I'll teach you first, just in case. If Light hasn't broken the opponent's dream trap by tomorrow morning, we can also ask the Vatican for help. We can do both at the same time. Okay. Flando, you are responsible for taking care of Light. Emily, come here. The three girls in the bedroom were doing their own jobs, while Wright, who was trapped in a dream, was still looking at this world that others had carefully woven with delusion. This was a peaceful place, with warm orange tones filling the sky. Buildings of different styles and perfectly matched to each other formed a city-state full of freedom. What is this place? This is the dreamland. Suddenly, a kind old man wearing a wizard's robe and a tall hat appeared in front of Wright. Welcome, Mr. Wright. Wright narrowed his eyes. This was not his first time in a dream, nor was it his first time to enter a beautiful dream woven by others. At this moment, he had realized that he was attacked, and the other party must have spent a great price to break through his mental barriers. Are you the master of this dream? You have already realized that this is a dream. You are worthy of being Mr. Light. The old man bowed and saluted. Let me introduce myself. My name is Makao Nalan, an ordinary tour guide in the dreamland. Light chuckled, with a fierce light in his eyes. So you are a fantasy creature who invited me here. I'm sorry I can't answer your question, Mr. Light. Then how can I go back? I'm afraid only our great master of dreams can answer it. Light raised his eyebrows, and a powerful mental wave burst out from his body, directly knocking Makao away. All the dream things that his mental power touched began to twist and melt crazily, and finally he reshaped them into the appearance of his own cognition. Your dreamland is not much stronger than the nightmare abyss that sealed Lilith. With this quality, you still want to trap me? Who gives you the confidence? Light condensed his mental power into a sharp blade and gently slashed forward, breaking the barrier of the dreamland. However, after looking outside, Wright chuckled and glued the gap back together. Beautiful, you actually put your beautiful dream near the eternal dream. This dream weaver is really a bold and skilled person. Because of everything that happened to Lilith back then, Wright had visited the dream world more than once. Dreams are a buffer zone between reality and illusion, and a vague state between existence and non-existence. Here, individuals with strong mental power can arbitrarily transform dreams into what they want. But dreams also have their own operating rules. Once these rules are violated, the beautiful dream will be broken, and the human spirit will be expelled from the dream, which is what people often call waking up from a dream. Therefore, if you want to stay in the dream, you need to keep yourself awake enough, but not too awake. Make the logic of things reasonable, but not too reasonable. It is precisely because of the particularity of dreams that the absolute strength of mental power cannot be a magic weapon for victory. It's like water and a boat. Mental power is the weight of the boat, but it doesn't mean that the heavier the better. If you blindly increase the weight, the boat may sink to the bottom. To sail in the sea of dreams, not only weight is required, but also the perfect ratio of the weight and volume of the ship, and the navigation rules must be found. Only by understanding the rules, being good at using the rules, and being flexible enough and manipulating mental power, can one kill all sides in the dream. Those who are good at weaving their own beautiful dreams in the dream are called dream weavers. Dream weavers seem to be able to do whatever they want in the dream, and realize many unrealizable dreams. They can even easily defeat enemies who are several times stronger than themselves. But because the beautiful dreams he weaved are too large and complicated, when the beautiful dreams are broken, the dream weaver will be too deeply involved in the dream and unable to get out, and eventually fall into the eternal dream together with the broken dreams. And this dream weaver actually placed the dream he wove near the eternal dream. In this way, if you are not careful, you will be completely swallowed up, and there will be no room for maneuver. So, your Lord of Dreams, what are you going to do by arresting me? Our Lord of Dreams was entrusted by someone to keep you here for a while. As soon as the time comes, we will send you back. Your Lord of Dreams is looking for death. If he lets me go now, there is still room for negotiation. Otherwise, Makao was embarrassed. I'm afraid that won't work. As far as I know, everything the master did today is based on a promise he made that year. If he doesn't fulfill it, his fate will be even worse. Wright looked around and frowned slightly. Needless to say, this must be another trick of the Tower of Truth. With the foundation of the Tower of Truth, it is not difficult for a dream weaver to owe a contract. And judging from the degree of completion of this dream town, this dream weaver should have been weaving for many years, and it is almost perfect. Wright does have many ways to destroy this dream town from the inside. But once this thing collapses, there will be eternal dreams underneath. He now feels like he is sitting on a luxury airliner and has flown to an altitude of 10,000 meters. His current problem is not how to kill the pilot or how to destroy the plane, but how to return to the ground safely in this situation. These grandsons of the Tower of Truth really use other people's antique porcelain as disposable tabloir. Yes, these people are damn bastards. Makao was also indignant, but fortunately, the Lord of Dreams argued and compressed the time to 5 days. As long as you spend 5 days here, then we will all be safe. Wright narrowed his eyes. Safe? You don't think that you will be safe if you become accomplices of that group of people? What, do you think I'm made of clay? We were also forced. This is just a reference for sentencing, not a gold medal for exoneration. Get out of the way and let me find a way back. Wright spread his hands this time, and the powerful mental power surged out like seawater, instantly sweeping the entire dreamland. However, the next moment, the entire dreamland shook violently, and everything began to deform. Mr. Wright, stop. The dreamland is in a delicate balance now. If you feel a little uncomfortable, you will fall into the torrent of eternal fantasy. You will lose yourself, and be completely trapped in the dream. However, Wright was unmoved and continued to increase the supply of mental power. The dreamland was shaking more and more, and it was about to collapse under the pressure. However, the next moment, the entire dreamland suddenly returned to stability. It was as if the shock just now had never happened. Maceo was shocked. He felt that the dreamland was now more solid than before. At least in the short term, he didn't have to worry about falling into the eternal fantasy. How did you do it? Why can you strengthen other people's dreams? Is it difficult to make a person believe in his own dream? Wright withdrew his mental power and formed a barrier 3 meters around him. Within the barrier, he was a world of his own. Take me to see your Lord of Dreams. He is going to fulfill his promise with the Tower of Truth, but the Tower of Truth may not let him go. At that time, the entire dream will be buried with me. If you don't want this, lead the way. Maceo nodded repeatedly after hearing this. When he waved the scepter in his hand, a teleportation array rose under their feet, and in a blink of an eye they arrived at the largest castle in the dreamland. On the throne of the castle sat a golden king, who sat there quietly with a scepter in his hand. Great lord, this distinguished guest wants. Lord. Wright frowned, realizing that something was wrong. He flashed to the throne, and took off the helmet of the golden king, but found that it was empty. The consciousness of your Lord of Dreams has been destroyed. What? Wright threw away the golden helmet in his hand, stretched out his hand and pushed it, and the entire golden armor fell to the ground. Then, the entire dreamland was shaken, and everything was rapidly twisting and changing, losing stability. Seeing this, Light reached out, and grabbed the guide Maceo, and placed him directly on the throne. Then the powerful mental power gathered in his hands, condensed into a colorful Rubik's Cube, and placed it in his hands. From now on, you must twist this thing non-stop. Otherwise, this dream will completely collapse, and you will no longer exist, understand? But, our dream master has already. If he can still be saved, you have to delay time, so that we can save him. If he is already hopeless, then you have to delay time even more, so that you have a chance to avenge him. Maceo gradually calmed down, and began to twist the Rubik's Cube in his hand. At the same time, the entire dreamland gradually stabilized. Although the sense of existence is weaker than before, fortunately the situation is maintained. At this moment, Emila's voice rang in Light's ears. Light, can you hear me? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.